March 20th, 2023, and we do have a quorum present. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and Janie's going to lead us, and Paul Arriaga will do the board mission statement.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Board mission statement. Tolosa Midway Independent School District educates every student to be a lifelong learner, a person of integrity, and a positive contributor to society.
Okay, we're going to begin with a public hearing of the Texas Academic Performance Report. Tolosa Midway Independent School District will hold a public hearing on the 2021-2022 Texas Academic Performance Report for the Tolosa Midway Independent School District on Monday, March 20th, 2023 at 6 p.m. in the TM Administrative Boardroom. Texas Education Code 39.053B and Tolosa Midway ISD Board Policy AIB Legal requires the board to publish an annual report describing the educational performance of the district and of each campus in the district. This report is provided by TEA and is termed the Texas Academic Performance Report. It is intended to inform the public about the educational performance of the district and of each campus in relation to the district, the state, and a comparable group of schools. 4 or more members of the Board of Trustees will be in attendance. However, no official business will be conducted, nor will any votes be taken during the hearing.
Madam President, members of the board, you have a significant amount of public information in front of you, as well as the public has access to all of that. Dr. White is going to give an executive summary of that information and be available for any questions regarding the academic performance of the district last year, financial information that's previously been reported via FIRST, and some demographics regarding teachers, their experience, and our students. Dr. White?
All right, members of the board, audience. So tonight we will be presenting over the district annual report, which includes the school year for 21-22. As has already been shared, there are 7 requirements to the annual report. Each requirement is broken down into 7 sections, with the first section being the taper, which comprises the majority of the annual reporting requirements. And then we've got our PEIMS report, which is our financials, in section 2. We have our district accreditation status in section 3. Section 4 speaks specifically to the campuses and their improvement plan objectives. Section 5 is on behavior and whether or not the district had any reports on violent incidents. Section 6 is related to our students in their post-secondary institutions, whether they were a 2-year, 4-year institute, and how are they performing with their GPAs. And then finally, the last section is progress towards HB3 goals. And for those that are interested, this PowerPoint will be posted to our website, and each link here is accessible by clicking, and it'll take you directly to the actual report itself. So to access the actual taper, other than clicking the link above, copies will be available at the TMISD admin building, as well as posted at the link on our website, and as well as at TA's website in 3 different forms, 2 of which is the paper copy, which is the PDF. The online is the accessible online platform of the PDF, and then the taper glossary helps kind of explain some acronyms and some terms that may not be familiar if you are interested in reading more about the taper report. Section 1, essentially for the district, our Calamy rating was a B at an 87. For our special education determination status, we met all requirements, and for the one possible distinction for the district, we did not earn. Section 2 with PEEMS financials. Just a quick snapshot about our totals here. We have expenditures, revenues, disbursements, tax rates, and fund balance, as well as kind of capturing the entire report itself with our first rating. We received our highest rating that you could receive as an A, which is superior achievement. For Section 3, accreditation status. You'll note that from 21-22, we were still coming out of COVID-19. Therefore, as a result of all that, TA suspended the assignment of accreditation statuses for that particular year. And this year is the first year that they have reassigned accreditation statuses. And if anybody's interested in knowing our current, we are accredited. Section 4 for campus performance objectives. Those can simply be reviewed as you would click on each campus. By clicking on each campus, pulls up their report, and you can learn a little bit more about each campus's objectives and whether or not they're making progress towards those objectives. These are also posted on our website under campus improvement plans. Section 5, report on violent or criminal incidents. We have none to report, so that makes that aspect of the presentation easy enough. No incidents whatsoever. Section 6 for student performance in post-secondary institutions. For what we could report for the 2020 graduates, because this is one of the indicators that lags another year behind. So in essence, it's a 2-year behind report. And so for our 2020 graduates, you can see that we have 305 total, broken out into each of those categories, mainly within 4-year and 2-year universities or colleges. And you can kind of see the breakdown of GPAs during that time period. And this is a newer report that the state is tracking. And so as the state continues to move forward with tracking post-secondary readiness, there will be more reports available and more reports to report on as the years move forward. Section 7, progress towards board-adopted HB3 goals. Our board goals are broken out into 2 different categories. For reading and math, our goals are captured at early education, and so those goals are also included in the primary campus improvement plan, as well as the second category being CCMR has its own subset, but that is also something that is included in the high school and ACC improvement plans. And of course, for more information, you can feel free to contact me at email, call me, or just swing by the admin building if you'd like to talk a little bit more about the TAPER report, any of the other sections that were included in this report, or just any other questions you may have on how we performed as a district for the 21-22 school year. Any questions?
What categorizes, I guess, the criminal aspect of?
Good question. So if you want to know a little bit more about the indicators that are actually being measured, clicking here will pull up the actual report that's been generated based on limited to no data, because we had no data to report. And so you can see the reason codes to the left. If we were to ever have one of these incidents, we would follow the PEEMS protocol for reporting. And then you can see a little bit closer about what each code is and the description behind it. And then, of course, none of our campuses had any to report, hence the reason why you see all the zeros.
Okay. So this is just crimes that occur on campus?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then,
Is that just students?
Yes, just students.
Faculty or anything?
If it was faculty, it would go under a different type of reporting, but this is just students, since this is a district level report based on performance. And so this gets captured under student performance for behavior.
do we know, I guess I don't have, how much our average year of experience like went down with our teachers from the last report?
I think it went down about a couple of years. Our average is around 11 years. It floats between like 11 and 13 right now, given kind of just where we're at with year-to-year hiring. Because just as you know, we hire a new teacher, doesn't mean they're new, they're just new to the district, they could be coming with experience as well.
The tracking of the kids going to college, what is our plan for, has TEA put out a plan of how we're gonna track those students? Or how is our district gonna track those students?
To start with the first question about TEA, I do know they've got the college, the college kind of overarching goal for 90-60-30, and that gets embedded into the THCB plan as part of the coordination between public and the state. So that's relatively new, and they're still kind of working out the details of how to capture better data once they leave us. As far as what it relates for the district, that's part of what Mr. Van Matry has been working very hard on this year, bringing the initiatives that allow us to continue to explore post-secondary opportunities. With tomorrow's meeting about strategic planning and getting the district kind of going in that direction, we're going to learn a lot more tomorrow about how that's all going to get captured. Because we have to set the goals first, then we know how to track them once we set them.
Okay.
There is a new initiative that we're going to roll out called Education to Employment. Jeff West locally is spearheading that. It's a P20 initiative that TM will be very involved with.
Okay. Any more questions?
My last question was just, so like when they release STAR results, I don't know, what actual like new information is in the TAPER report that hadn't been?
Very little.
Yeah, okay,
Very
it's all just old data
It's information that generally the district doesn't release as publicly as we do our STAR results and our first ratings, such as the experience level of teachers.
Yeah,
That information. Violent crimes, I don't think we've reported that, but the vast majority of this is redundant.
yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
You know, this is all just, it's like Mr. Van Matry just said, this information has been discussed at length in other parts, but this report kind of captures everything as a whole, and then it's almost like a review of sorts from what we kind of talk about as the information comes our way. Any more questions?
All right.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
Thank
you're
you.
welcome.
So this was report only, there was no board action needed. So now we'll be moving into the section of our meeting that includes public comment and open forum. The next item on the agenda is public comment, which is the time for members of the audience to address the Board of Trustees. Before we begin, I will remind our audience members of the board's procedures for handling public comments. Each public comment speaker will be allowed a maximum of 5 minutes to address the board, except that non-English speakers will be allowed a maximum of 6 minutes to address the board. Please keep your comments or criticism civil and courteous, avoid using profanity, and refrain from making personal attacks on others during your opportunity to speak. Yelling, inappropriate, uncivil, or discriminatory comments will not be permitted. Lastly, we ask that you do not discuss students who are not your own child. I also caution you that your public comment should not complain about individual school employees by name or position, or other than your own child, identify students. As presiding officer, I am obligated to determine whether a person addressing the board has attempted to administratively resolve any complaints or grievances about which they want to address the board that involve district officers or employees. In the event your comment constitutes a complaint or charge against an employee or officer, it may be necessary for me to interrupt and ask you to stop and direct you to proceed with the school district's formal grievance procedures or to have the item heard in executive session, depending on the nature of the complaint. Any concerns or complaints regarding individual district employees, students, or parents must be resolved via the district's grievance process which can be found online and include policies DGBA, FNG, and GF. Thank you. Our first speaker is Marcus Avalos.
Good afternoon, or good evening, board. I'm going to hand these handouts to you guys. Of course, 5 minutes to a salesman is like nothing, but we're going to try this. Definitely going to try this out. There you go. By the way, I am an alumni of TM, graduated in '89. Parents still live in this area, which is really cool. I currently work for Airgas. Airgas is a welding supply company. We offer machines, gases, consumables, and safety supplies. So sorry, you have to share on that one. We help educational facilities with grants and welding equipment, and everything like that. I've been with Airgas 25 years. I've helped schools from Rockport down to Cal Allen. Currently working in Papiris with their grants. We have in-store techs that actually work on welding equipment, so you don't have to send anything out. We actually have techs that show up to the school and actually work on machines there. I have sold equipment to TM before. We are one of your vendors right now. What this all comes about to, you all recently just had an upgrade to your high school down the road, a welding lab. My question to you guys is, why weren't your local vendors involved? I actually saw the bids. They were really, really high. Had I bid the same thing they bid, you would have saved $238,000. It's a good chunk of change. Could have been more equipment. Could have been a couple bandsaws. Among those bids I saw something really strange. Lincoln Electric, Miller, and Eastside Welding Equipment do not charge freight to educational facilities. All three of those bids I saw from Florida, Maryland, and the bid that was awarded was from Houston, had freight charges from $12,000 to $15,000. Lincoln doesn't charge that. Sort of stuck out a little bit. Again, my parents live in this area. I'm close to this. Been part of my life forever. But I just want to come in and just let y'all know what occurred. And that's it. Thank y'all for your time.
Thank you. Our second speaker is Sean Gonzalez.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. I want to thank you for giving me 5 minutes. I was like, 3 minutes, I can't do it. Can I pass this out to them so they can just review it, just to look at it? It's a form that was given by the school, Tulsa Middle High School, to students to permission to attend the high school prom.
Okay, we don't have that on the agenda tonight, but if you
Okay.
want to leave it with Chrissy, she can put it in our board books for us.
Okay,
In our
okay.
folders.
I'll need this one because it's got my notes, and I'll give it back. So, my name is Sean Gonzalez. As I said, I am a veteran of the United States Air Force and the Marine Corps, and I'm currently employed by the Corpus Christi Fire Department on my 28th year, waiting for retirement, one more year. And then I also work part-time for the Coastal Bend Blood Center, part-time for 19 years. So I'm here today because of the events that happened Saturday at the prom. I don't have any students at school, but someone I know was going to attend as a guest. The form was given to one of the seniors to fill it out, and it's for admittance to the prom. There's a list of maybe 6 guidelines. Why did we fill out that form, or he did, was because apparently there's a policy that the prom attendees, guests, whoever, has to be a junior or a senior, even if you're just there visiting. It's a bit vague. The form does not mention any of that. So it was confirmed by the administrator, who is the coordinator also, fill it out, it should be okay. Went ahead and did that. I think they needed the form by the 10th, so it can be vetted, see what's happening. They turned everything in on time. It clearly says on box 1, sophomore. So at that moment when they received it, hey, she can't come to she's a sophomore. It was omitted, they never saw that, okay. They had it in their possession for 6 days, never heard anything. It was brought to the attention of the administrator again on the 13th when they turned it in. She looked at it again. It was confirmed through the phone. Everything's okay. I'm sorry, that was on the 10th. On the 13th, when they went and paid the fees for the prom, she looked at it again, and it was confirmed that everything is good. On the prom day, about 12 o'clock, we get a call from an administrator, top administrator at the high school. Hey, she can't go to the prom. She's a sophomore. What? At the 11th hour? They decide to review these again. It had already been through so many hands. Nobody saw it. There was no attempt to deceive, right? Everything's factual. And that was it. Calls were made, okay? That administrator said, you know, there's nothing I can do. Another top administrator of the school district said the students should have known. It was well advertised. Well, it was vague at best, okay? That's why it was filled out, and because the coordinator reinforced it, accepted payment, okay? I believe this is an important date for all seniors, the last event of their high school years, okay? Surely these administrators can make an exception of one student, okay? I think they could have. They made an exception here recently for some cheerleaders, I understand, that the scores were not accurate, so they just went ahead, everybody becomes a cheerleader, okay? So exceptions can be made. I think what was lacking was empathy, okay? Let me just read something. When a leader lacks empathy, they lose the ability to adapt their approach because they can't see further than their own point of view. Being able to adapt means that you can make better judgment calls and tailor your approach to the suit of your team and members. So I felt I had to bring this to the attention of the board because three administrators failed that student that day. And there was no attempt to try to correct it. Why do you wait till the day of the prom, when you have possession of that form for 6 days, and then you decide, hey, you're out? That's pretty devastating for a high school student. It is. He didn't go because his date couldn't go. Might be trivial to us. We're adults, yeah, we're in politics, whatever. But to a 17, 18-year-old boy, it can be devastating. That's all I have. Thank you for your time. Here's the other part of that. Thank you.
All right, now we're moving into one of the favorite parts of what we do here, and it's we're going to have the recognition of UIL academics at the elementary for TM primary and TM intermediate.
Okay, do we need to move this again?
This table?
Yes, I forget. How did we do it last time? Because it kind of worked.
I think we took it completely out.
Yeah, let's do it. I don't know why it's even there.
I can't tell.
I think it's easier if the board just all comes up together and shake hands. I'll go up right now. Yeah.
Take off the tablecloth. I think it's dirty.
Come on in.
These little ones are going to want to walk back here.
Could we push this that way, but I can't help problems. That would give some more.
We'll let them get out first.
Just go stay in the back.
You ready?
They're coming.
We have the certificates. Before we begin, we're going to make some memories tonight. So do what you need to do to position yourself to take pictures, and we'll do what we have to do to accommodate you. These are our stars, and we're very proud of them. Is Miss, here we go. Come over here and say a few words about your program.
Okay. Hello, hi, how are you? Hi, I'm Cassie Alvarez, and I am the intermediate coordinator. It was my first year, so it was a lot of learning, but it was a lot of fun, and I have to say, your kids are amazing. They work hard, they studied hard. I think the art kids knew some of those names before I could even figure out how to pronounce them. But your children are wonderful. They do a great job. It's a reflection of what you've taught them and how you have worked with them at home. So thank you, parents. And thank you, students, for all the hard work you did this year. And we are very proud of everything you accomplished at the UIL competition. So very nice job.
Do you want to just introduce your co-sponsors and they can just stand right here?
Yes, so we have a couple of our coaches here today. We have Miss Selena Salinas. She was in coaching the Ready Writing.
Congratulations.
And we also have Miss Heather Dubois, and she was our coach for the oral reading, all grade levels. So, and do you guys want to say anything about your teams?
Just super proud of my team. I know we only have one here today, but all my kids work so hard. They even asked to take work home, to do work at home, which not everybody does that. So I'm just extremely proud of them.
And I had a really spirited group, my oral reading group. They were so much fun, and we had a second place and a fifth place. So
They all did really well.
Yeah. Can you describe, I guess, like the rules for each of the events they placed in a little
Well,
bit?
for oral reading, they had to read a poem, and they couldn't go over 6 minutes, and they had to dress nice. They couldn't just wear their t-shirt and jeans like everyone else, so you could always tell who the oral reading people were.
Yes.
It was good.
Yeah, and the Ready Writing's just like you're given a prompt and they have to stay on topic right over the prompt, and they have to follow organizational skills and all kinds of.
And for Art Smart, they have to memorize 30 paintings, the names of the artists, the elements of the art used, and the history of the art used. So when I say that they did their work, they really did their work. So parents, I'm sure, were also, I had some tell me, we had to Google because we weren't quite sure how to say it. It's okay, it's okay. So they did a lot of hard prepping for it, so. All right.
Ready?
Okay, so I'm going to call our first, when you hear your name, if you'll just walk up, please, okay? First person that we have is Austin Riggs. He is our 5th grade Art Smart, placed first place at the UIL competition. Hold up the certificate. And we also have,
Group picture.
yeah, we'll stand right over here. We have Gabby Evans. She is getting a certificate for first place in the award. They all work together because, here we go, take a picture. Our team actually for Art Smart placed first, second, and 5th, and then our other students didn't place as far as getting ribbons, but their scores were included, and so we actually won first place as a team at the competition. Remington Gonzalez. Art Smart first place team. Congratulations. Okay. And next we have Mr. Denishi is not here, but he was our coach for our chess puzzle. And so it's not about playing chess, it's more about knowing strategies and things like that, and they have to really decide. It's pretty technical and it's really hard as well, and I'm not just saying that. I'm not a chess person, but even if I was, I think it's really hard. And this student, Brock Heath, He placed first place in chess puzzle. And Brock was first. We had our other two teammates that placed fourth and I believe also sixth, and so they earned the first place for the fourth grade team as well. So we got first place ever and then a first team. Yes, ma'am. Okay, and then for oral reading, in fifth grade, we have Shelby Miller. She received second place. And for fifth grade ready writing, we have Malia Torres, who placed second place in the ready writing. And then, oops, sorry, Austin, first place in your team award. Here you go. So sorry, I forgot that one. Come back and take another picture for mom. Hold on. There you go. Mom wants to get a picture with you.
Smile.
Thank you. And those are our UI. We had a total of 88 students. Let me go back a little bit. We had a total of 250 students sign up for UIL this year. When tryouts were over, we ended up with a group, 11 teams, and we had 88 students participate on that Saturday competition. And these are our first through third winners, but we also had 6th place, 8th place, 9th place. I mean, we had winners across the board. So we're very proud of them.
Picture.
Okay, we'll take a picture here.
If I can get the sponsors on the side, let me get the board in the
Okay.
middle real quick. But you're gonna be in the picture.
Okay.
So if I can have everybody step up a little bit.
You're taller than me. Window.
Back real quick. Let me squeeze back here. Excuse me. Stand in front of you, I'm sorry. Okay. Here we go.
Got it.
What's up, Dave?
Great job, Congratulations.
Thank you for my prize.
Send me a picture. Thank you.
Talk about your kids.
Okay, step right here, baby.
I didn't know I was gonna be talking to.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
My name's Andrea Carvajal. I am the UIL coordinator for the primary campus. This is my third year coordinating for the primary and my 10th year involved with UIL. So I've been coaching for 10 years. This is the first year I did not coach a team. But I'm so proud of our primary students. It is their first, when they come to me in second grade, it's their very first year getting to participate. And so my goal is to get them encouraged to keep going past our primary level. And this year they did a great job. We do creative writing, storytelling, chess puzzle, and music memory, yes. So I'll get to the kids because these are our
Can you talk about, each of the
each event?
competitions? Yeah.
Okay, so creative writing, they are given 30 minutes to write a story based on a group of 5 pictures that they don't know. I think that's one of the hardest events. They have to do it ahead of time, and they have to come up with a story on the spot in 30 minutes. And our kids did a really good job. It's one of the toughest competitions. We have also storytelling, where they listen to a story and then they have to go and retell it in their own words. We did have a student this year make it to finals. Unfortunately, they could not be here tonight, but it takes a lot to make it to finals. Only 10 students move on to finals out of anywhere from 50 to 60 to 70 students competing from all over. And then we have chess puzzle, which that is my cup of tea right there. That is an event I coached for 9 out of my 10 years here. So this was the first year I did not coach chess puzzle,
but we had an amazing pre-K teacher step up and coach our team, which ended up coming in third place overall. So that was great. And then we have our music memory team, which they have to memorize the composers. They have to know the songs just by a little clip of about 10 to 15 seconds of music. And they did a great job. So we are proud of all our students at the primary school, and we hope they continue next year at the intermediate. So let's talk about our kids that were able to make it tonight. First, we have Wade Yates, and he represented our chess puzzle team.
Wait.
Right here.
Hold on, Mike, hold on. Hold on, your mom wants a
Stay here,
picture.
stay here.
Oh, no.
Stay here. You're gonna stay up here. We're gonna do a picture at the end.
The other way. Here. Here, let's do it like this. Hold on, we're gonna open it.
These are fancier than the ones I made them.
So she can see your face.
Appreciate it. All right, you're staying here, Wade.
Yep, stay right here, Wade. Come right here. There we go. We got all the teachers helping out here.
You can tell the teachers.
We have Rosalind DeLuna. She competed in creative writing. Next, we have Ava Anderson, and she was one of our music memory team members. Then we have Tristan Lemley. He also did music memory. And Kaylee Vasquez, who also did music memory, so. That's almost like our music memory team here.
Mike, come on, guys, let's take a picture.
Take that off. You bet.
Come on,
Just a
stop.
little bit. We promise we won't fight, okay?
All right, here we go.
Great, good job. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Great job.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you to the parents, because I know you're without your support.
Got it? All right. See you at school tomorrow. Congratulations. Thank you. Sister. Sorry.
All right, now we're moving into discussion and action items. Number one is a Zoom presentation, opinion research, and decision-making with Baseline and Associates Incorporated.
Madam President, members of the board, this was a trustee request to network with the pollsters that are going to be surveying the TM community to find out some attitudes and opinions in possibly a first step in looking at a November bond. So we have Matt Gamble, who is the pollster opinion surveyor that's going to be working specifically with TM. And Chrissy, there he is. Matt, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, we can hear you and we can see you. We have you with our Board of Trustees. So if you could introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about what you do, your company, and we'll go from there, okay?
Regardless of whether you're working for a school district, or a candidate trying to get elected to public office, or helping your company sell a product, we approach everything the same way in the sense that our goals are really twofold. First, understand what people think about an issue, candidate, or topic, and then provide more information about that topic or issue, and then in doing so, find out the informed support that voters will have for a particular proposal. So, when we look at a school bond survey, for example, we will be looking at what initial opinions are from voters, providing them more information about the bond proposal and how it addresses the needs of the community, and then we will be asking those respondents at the end of the survey how they feel about the bond proposal, having learned more about it. And what we do with that, again, regardless of what the topic is we use regression analysis to understand what information impacts voters, what information resonates the most with them, that allows them to move them to a position of really supporting the proposal. So looking at school bonds, for example, we find that voters will like the fact that the district wants to do a certain project. For example, buy more buses or improve the safety and security of a campus. But that support of a particular project doesn't always translate to support of the bond that will allow you to actually fund those items. So our job is to find out what messages correlate with voters supporting the proposal so that we understand what's important, not just to the voters, but really what's important to go out and communicate. So, I can go on to more information in detail about how we would conduct the survey, but any kind of questions about our background?
Any questions on their background?
I was just hoping for, I guess, a sample of deliverables that we would receive post everything happening. So I know what to expect, yeah.
I can show you visually some examples, or I just kind of verbally tell you. But we really produce 3 different reports. The first is we call it top lines, and that would just be the survey questions and how the responses to those questions. The second report would be what we call crosstabs, and that would be 100 to 200 pages of every question by every demographic. So how males and females answered, how moms or how parents and non-parents answered. It's very detailed. It's usually more than everyone will read. But then the big report that we produce is a PowerPoint presentation that will show you really how the responses to questions, but in key questions provide analysis breakdown of different types of voters, and also provide that regression analysis that scores the information that we provided and the messages for how effective they are. If you'd like like, I can show you an example of that.
Yeah, I'd like to see that, Matt. Do you have a deck where you can show from one of your other clients?
Sure. I think I need just the host to enable sharing.
What type of regression do you use?
And I think I need to just, if someone can enable sharing.
She's doing it.
There we go. Okay. Can everyone see the screen that I'm sharing? It says the Fort ISD voter survey.
Yes.
Can you all see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay, excellent. So this was a survey we did a couple months ago in the Fullerton School District. It was done using the same methodology, by the way, that we would do here, where it's a variety of phone calling as well as and this is a kind of a 16-page deck. I don't know that we're going to get into all of these slides here, but we provide some background analysis of your voters and kind of how that matches up to our sample. It's always important for us to make sure that the sample is representative of voters. And so this slide is illustrating, there's a difference in the age of who's registered and who turns out to vote in elections. And that'll be part of our process is that analysis of demographics. We'll always want to ask a couple of general questions about the district unrelated to the specific proposal itself. This will be even more, I think, more informative in our case here, coming off of a failed bond to just get a better understanding of did the bond perhaps fail because voters don't feel positively about the fiscal management? Do they just not understand that the district schools are in need of repair? We could also ask if they understand you have a need for more space if you're growing or not. So we have a couple of general questions that really help us understand the environment in which we're operating. If there's support or if there's opposition to bonds, is it being driven because of a particular thing? So I mentioned when I spoke earlier that we like to test initial support, provide information, and test informed support. So these are initial ballots. And we like to ask questions in a way that mimic the ballot language itself, because we're really trying to find out how voters react to the text that they would see in the voting booth without having any other information given to them. And so this is what we're kind of looking at here, the initial ballot. And in this case, they had 3 different bond propositions. So we had the general bond, a technology bond, and a stadium bond. We can do things like in version A and version B, we can test different differences in language. If that's of interest, sometimes we can learn what words to use or not use. This question we asked them, why they were opposed to bonds. We can understand where opposition is coming from. Senior tax freeze is another topic that we'll explore. Do they understand taxes are frozen for seniors, and do they believe that taxes are frozen when they hear this ballot language that says it's a property tax increase? On this slide, these are projects that we provided when I mentioned we give the respondent additional information about the bond. Here we're telling them these are different projects that could be included in the bond, and tell us if you favor or oppose them. And in doing it this way, we're really doing 2 things. We're understanding how much support there is for particular projects themselves as standalone projects, but we're also educating the respondent about what the bond is actually doing. You'll notice here that like 79% favored addressing critical repairs to schools like roofage and drainage and roofing, and 79% favored CTE improvements. We have a lot of favorability oftentimes for things like this. We provided more information, not related to projects themselves, but other pieces of information such as the last bond was on time and on budget, and the citizens committee has vetted the projects. The bond funds would be based on need, but all students would be impacted. Other messages that we can provide understand really how best to communicate about the bond. This is really about believability and about the no tax increase language, which would not apply here since we would be looking at something that would increase the tax rate. So this is really kind of where it gets good. I'm showing you the initial ballot and the informed ballot. You can see the movement from the beginning to the end of the survey. So we always want to know where we start off, but this also is letting us know what is our potential for support when we educate voters. So we see here that we can increase the support when they learn more information. And really, beyond that, we dig into the internals of the survey. We look at the different demographics, and we see where we have strengths and weaknesses with different types of voters. And this helps us really understand how to start formulating a strategy. So what types of voters are ready to be turned out to support? What types of voters could be supportive of it when they learn what it's doing? Because again, the ballot language doesn't really tell you everything the bond does. So we want to know where those potential pockets of support are. We can do that a number of ways. We look at the total opposition and also look at the intensity or the net strong. So there's just a lot of data that we'll dig into to help understand where the support is.
Will we get, I guess, like the unfiltered data of all that, so we can do targeted, like voter walks and stuff?
Yes and no. We won't tell you how specific people answered questions, right? So we put the responses.
Yeah.
But you can use this to help with that strategy. So, for example, here, 50 to 64-year-olds, we're breaking even in this survey with them at the informed ballot. So that tells me that, this is not really a group that, even if we put a lot of work into, we're probably going to win. Seniors is one group where, we really see some good movement there, and we end up in a positive position. Younger males, we see that they were a tougher group. So we can use this to inform that strategy, but I think if I'm hearing you right, we can't tell you how specific people answer.
Yeah, I get that.
I have a question. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, keep going.
Is this survey, is it done in Spanish also? And if it is, how do you target, or how do you visit the Hispanic, non-English speaking households that are able to vote? Do y'all target them also, or are y'all not equipped to do that, or?
We can offer it in Spanish. There's obviously an additional price for that because we have to translate it and do dual programming. I will tell you that response rates among Spanish-speaking voters, those who, and I'm talking about those who really don't speak English, they're very, very low. And we may only get 5 interviews among respondents who cannot speak English. We've surveyed in communities where there's a huge Hispanic population, and like A-Leaf School District is an example. They sent a letter to every parent household in the community, and I think we only got 100 in Spanish, thousands and thousands of them. So I would just, it's something we can offer, but the response rates are very low.
I think the trust.
I'm sorry?
That's all right. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I think we have some trustees that could help with helping reach those communities so that we can have a bigger turnout.
Yeah, that really kind of gets more into campaign strategy, which is sort of kind of outside the scope of work that we would do. This would really be kind of more to help inform that. We can find actionable data among Hispanic respondents in the survey and know how to communicate to them. But strategies for reaching out to Spanish-speaking voters and trying to turn them out is really kind of beyond the scope of what we're providing here with the survey.
Is that something that you actually have a plan for, or do you just know that that's probably not going to be something that they will understand or read or even be interested in, and so you
Bypass.
yeah, bypass it or change the strategy for that scope.
Yeah, so, I think I heard that question. Do we plan for that in the survey?
No, not do you plan it, do you not put that as much emphasis on trying to get that Hispanics or that other non-English speaker to become interested in what you're proposing? Do you have a strategy?
You know, again, it kind of gets, that strategy implementation a bit outside of what we're doing with the survey, but I would say in general, it's very hard to turn out new voters who haven't voted in things. Usually the ballgame here, especially in the May election, is finding voters who have voted in, say, the midterm presidential elections, who have voted in constitutional elections. They have a lot of vote history, and it's communicating to them and making them understand what the proposal actually does, because you want to identify the voters you know are likely to show up and make sure that they're informed. And then you want to identify voters that could potentially turn out, that are the most likely to turn out, that maybe not would vote in the May election, because we know those are small turnout elections. But looking at did they vote in say the midterm and trying to bring them out, trying to turn out the Spanish-speaking voter is just their turnout percentage is very, very low, and so typically that's just the hardest type of voter to get to come to the polls in terms of strategy. In terms of implementing the survey, we can when we send out the letter, we can have it half and half, where half the side of the postcard is in Spanish and half is in English, and we can with the first question they answer in the survey is, do you want to take this in Spanish or English? And we can offer it, but I would just again brace yourselves for not having a significant number of respondents. What I wanted to show you is now this is more of a reduced version of that presentation. Let me bring up a different one.
I know we were gonna turn over our parent call list, information. Can we keep that correlation between, registered voters and the call list? Or can you provide that as a deliverable?
Yeah, we can provide a breakdown of parents and non-parents, if that's what you're asking. We wouldn't want to interview parents if they say they're not registered to vote.
Your updated call list of,
Go ahead.
your updated call list of, off the voter IDs based on the information TM provides you. Can that be a document we keep, or an Excel, or, the data we keep?
Yeah, we can match that up and tell you which parents are registered and which ones aren't. And vice versa, I can give you the voter file, show you, eventually found as a parent, not a parent. Can you all see the screen now that I'm showing? It's got some light blue boxes highlighted.
Yes. We can see it.
Yes.
So this is sort of the result of the regression analysis, measuring the correlation of how much people like different projects and whether or not they supported the bond. Specifically, what's correlating with people who stay in support, and then also what's correlating with people who switch, and we're averaging those two factors together. Because we like to say in campaigns, there's only two things you can really do when you communicate. You reinforce support or opinion, or you change an opinion. And so we like to say a good message will really do both. And these scores, really, the way they work is they're just relative within their subgroup. So the first column in yellow there is the total sample. The next column in orange are the parents. The light orange is the non-parents, and so on. And within each of those columns, the bigger the number, the more important the message is. And again, it's because sometimes people like a project, but they're not gonna vote for the bonds to allow you to implement that project. So it's kind of understanding what really drives voters and what's a motivating factor. Again, think of these numbers as messages that are gonna encourage people to make the effort to go. Oh, that's a good idea, but I really just don't have the time to go do it. Yeah, that's a great idea. I've got to make the point to go vote. And so this is really the best value that we provide, I believe, in our services is a roadmap for how to communicate to the community about what the bond is doing. And we can dissect these scores by different types of voters. Again, we have parents and non-parents. We can look at age, gender, any demographic where we have enough interviews to have a statistically valid subgroup of impressions. We can understand how to communicate to those people. Couple that with their movement and initial position and movement to the informed position, we start to understand how we develop our strategy. And really the best thing about this is we can provide you with really we call this an element matrix or a message matrix, and it really summarizes the most important things to say. Usually the case is bonds will do a lot of great things. There's a lot of projects. It's almost too much though for the average voter to retain. And so rather than having a bunch of well-intentioned supporters saying different things, it's getting everyone on the same sheet of music and saying the same thing so that with that message repetition start to sink into the voters and they start to understand the bond is doing X, Y, and Z, and it's really helping them to go support it. We can ask some questions in the survey about maybe what happened with the last bond, but typically the case is most voters just didn't hear enough about it or didn't hear enough positive information about the bond to really, kind of cut through the convoluted verbiage of the ballot and just being very non-specific.
Yeah. Yes. Not
So this is really kind of, again, I think the best benefit of the survey is to understand how to talk about it. There are other things we can do with the survey as well. For example, if if the committee is getting hung up on option A or option B, we usually like to do these surveys kind of in between the committee process, so not at the very start, but before the committee's wrapped up their work, and we can ask a question that may or may not, be needed to help settle a dispute, but a debate about what should be done.
Yeah, I guess, do you see school districts utilize you once they already know exactly what they want to implement, or when they're still trying to figure out how to piece?
It's all over. It's all over the board. It really kind of just depends on what's the most strategic value in terms of collection of data. Usually, we're towards the end of the committee process.
Yeah.
So there's a really good idea of what it is that is going to be done. We sometimes will do a survey after the committee has totally completed its work. We usually don't do it before the committee started because then we never know, they've introduced a whole new concept and we've already asked questions that don't really apply.
I guess that's my worry here is, do we know exactly what we're doing yet? Okay,
No, we're gonna wait.
okay, got it.
So,
So the other thing I'll say is that you don't have to have everything nailed down before you do the survey. It's really just kind of a thematic understanding of what are we going to do and what is the range of the bond amount we're going to go for. There's not a big difference in testing, let's say, $110 million and $180 million in a survey to a respondent. It's a lot of money. So we can kind of work with you on the timing of the survey based on where the sticking points are, the things that are still being discussed or considered. And in terms of towards the end, it may just be a matter of within the safety and security bucket, which things are gonna get funded and which things do we save for later. We can still write questions in the survey about safety and security. We don't have to have everything totally normal. We just don't wanna do it too early to where, we decided that an entire huge component of the bond is gonna get dropped or added.
During the survey, after you get the information, how long is the turnaround time to get that, like, get some of this information to us? How long are we gonna be waiting?
Yeah, so, once the survey is completed, about 4 business days, the challenging thing for the timeline here is that we also want to send that mailer out, via postcard, which is what it looks like. But, we want to allow about a week for that to get delivered, and then we want to allow about a week for people to respond to it. It's a bad luck to, not give people enough time, and they've been out of town, and they realize they've missed the deadline. So we like to over-plan. So with that time built in, it's about 3 weeks from when the questionnaire is approved to when we can provide results. You can see what I'm showing now. It says the Fort ISD. It's like a postcard. So the front will just have the person's home address, their household, and they have a PIN. They'll enter a 4-digit PIN for quality control purposes. Make sure people don't quote unquote stuff the ballot box, right? And then they'll have a QR code here where they can type in a link to take the survey. And they'll be asked at the beginning to enter their PIN number. So if we wanted to do this in Spanish, the left side could be in English, and then the right side could be in Spanish.
Is this an online survey?
This part it'll be a phone and online survey. So to get people to go online, we'd send them this postcard. They're not gonna open an email from Vassili's and Associates. They don't know who we are, right? This is the mechanism to get people to go online to take it, but then we'll also be doing telephone calls as well. And the telephone will consist of also texting, and through that platform, it's an online survey as well. So it's mail to online, it's a text to online, and it's a phone call, it's a live interview.
And you said that would be open for 1 week?
The online mailing portion would be open for 1 week. We'll complete the telephone calls in about 3 nights. We can leave it open for longer. In our experience, it doesn't really help with response rates, and people tend to just, if it's not a fairly immediate deadline to take the survey, they can kind of tend to put it off. But you really don't want to ideally give them less than a week, because people may, again, not check their mail, and then they're calling you to complain that they got invited to do a survey, but it was too late to do it.
So the timing of this survey would be really, really important. Like, May would be a horrible month for us to send out a survey. Because there's something going on at our school campuses like nightly. So the timing of this survey would be very, very important if it's open for a week.
Yeah, well, and it can be open for longer. But yeah, timing is something to consider, particularly with the mail. The phones don't bother me as much, because even if people are on vacation or whatever, they still have their phone. But the mail is definitely something to keep in mind. Like when we mail out over Thanksgiving or 4th of July, we always budget more time. We assume it'll be more busy. So that's something, great point, something to consider in terms of when we set that deadline.
So let's talk about our timeline, Matt, just for a little bit. I have to have all of the information, the committee work, this data to the board in August for them to either call an election or not call an election. I'm tentatively planning to start the committee work immediately after the May elections, so not to confuse voters that this is May and start there. As we were talking today, having enough work done that the questions could be formulated based on the scope of the bond for a mid-June rollout. Does that sound?
Yeah, that's possible. I will, let you know that I will be, out of the country at the end of June. So I can't do a presentation until like June 29th. But we can certainly do the rollout over that time and
Have you seen,
process, crunch numbers. If there's a specific date in June, that we need, late June, if we need a presentation, I'm sure I could get, Mike Vassilis to.
No, we can push the presentation back to the board sometime in July, but just getting all the prerequisite work done prior to that, that'll give them plenty of time, almost a month to massage, the data and the information, and then to, work on a messaging campaign. I just want to make sure I have enough time for committee work so we can align what is going in the bond or not going in the bond, and you can align that with the questions.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Usually is the case, we start off in this process with an idea, and the committee, by the time you get through it, it ends up kind of in the same shape as you thought it would be in, but every now and then it changes, and so I think that's a good idea, to just kind of let the committee do some work. I should say, just came to mind, but when we do the survey, we don't want to let people know that it's coming. It needs to be sort of kind of blind, because what happens if people who are piped into our communication channels are gonna be more likely to be our parents and our pro supporters, and that can really give us a false sense of security and really kind of skew the results that we get. So the best way to get a true random sample is just let it be, let it go out. If people ask, hey, are you doing a survey? You tell them at that time, or you can tell them what's coming. But again, we don't really want to advertise it too much ahead of time.
Okay.
yeah, I was gonna say, is it beneficial to have it align with like parents' night and stuff before school starts? To get more people to do the survey, or at least to, I don't know, help the
That may
informed part?
skew it.
Yeah, I know that after he just said that, but.
Now, when we used to be able to have voting at those sites, that helped a lot.
Yeah, I mean, if it's just parent, if it's just at your parent, as long as it was consistent across the board and all your parents were at that event, then it wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, because we could say, well, look, 50% of the people who responded to the survey are parents, and we know that it's probably gonna be about 25% of the voters will be parents based on demographics. We can kind of adjust the numbers, but if the types of parents who are coming to this event, just a subset of all parents, then that can start to skew it.
Yeah.
Like if it's just the most active parents, the ones that are really involved, that can kind of skew.
So at the end of the day, you'll be able to communicate to us why 58% of the voters said no in November.
Yeah, I think we can deduce that through questions. We can ask some questions like, why did you vote no? And And, one of the questions we like to ask a lot when a bond fails is, well, how much information did you get? Was it mostly positive, or was it mostly negative? I think we're gonna be too far removed from the election at that point to really get into a lot of those specifics. But we certainly can ask generally, did you vote in the last election? How did you vote and why? And kind of understand that. That coupled with these other general questions about fiscal management and need, we'll understand how much of it is just they don't know what's needed, and then how much of it was, they kind of knew it, but they just weren't excited enough to vote for it. And that's really kind of more of a message. It's just kind of really selling it.
Any other questions? Paul, anything? Either Paul?
I'm good.
It's good. It's a little more sophisticated than the last one group we had helped us, much more sophisticated.
Leo, anything? Janie? All right, Kim.
All right. Thank you so much. We appreciate it, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
So we don't have a recommendation.
No, that's just information.
Report only, no board action needed. Number 2 on the agenda is discuss and consider approval of the board operating procedures.
Madam President, what you have here is the board operating procedures that the board worked through. I forget the exact date of the board meeting for your review and consideration.
Anybody have any questions after reviewing?
This was the meeting with, this was the meeting with Juan?
Yes.
Okay. I was under the impression that we were gonna get them a little bit beforehand so we could go through them. I received them on Thursday, and this weekend I've been really busy. I have not had a chance to look at them. So I'm not in a position to vote on it. And I just, when, I'm pretty sure when they left, they said we were gonna get them a little bit earlier than this.
I think it was the goals.
No,
No, that was a different meeting.
no, that was a
Sorry.
different meeting.
That was from,
Yeah. We were supposed to, Dr. Villar said she was gonna get us, I still haven't seen those either. And Paul and Neil weren't here, they were supposed to get a copy, I don't know if they have or not. But on the one with Mr. Cruz, I was under the understanding when they left that we were gonna get them shortly after that. And I didn't receive mine till Thursday afternoon, and I have not had a chance to see it. So I don't wanna make a decision, not seeing the final product yet.
The majority of it
More
is
substance.
the same as the initial release, outside of the concerns we brought up during the meeting, and then they edit those. And it's color-coded, so you could specifically see
which was.
what parts were edited.
Yes, it was essentially the same as what we had been presented with before and had read over.
Well, it went from 9
discussed.
pages to 24, so it's considered.
Well, no,
I mean,
I'm referring to the ones
Yeah.
that were presented with, not from the original, the
Yeah.
one we had from years ago. It was the updated one that had the 24 pages. And there was just a few of the corrections that they made and they have them in there. I mean, the other part was essentially the same, right? Essentially,
Yeah.
it is.
My question is, what is the adverse impact if we delay a decision? Because like Ben, myself included, I have not had time. I looked at it a little bit today during my lunch break at work, but I had prom this weekend. I had all kinds of stuff, so I didn't really get to look at it. I understand that we reviewed it with Juan Cruz, and I think we had a lot of good discussion there, but
The big driver to show change is the TEA phone call and stuff. So
so where are we at with that? Like, we were supposed to get wasn't he supposed to get?
I sent you the response in this Friday's connections.
Oh, so you haven't even got a chance to look at the board connection, so, I agree with Ben, I'd like to, at least, the next time we meet's a month from now, right?
Correct.
Not necessarily. That you said, Linda Villarreal was available to meet next Monday. And who was absent? You and Leo? I think Chrissy sent you the video of that meeting.
Did you?
And she's available to meet next Monday
April 10th.
it's not next Monday, it's April 10th, to finish those goals and to review what you wanted to do. But that's along those
I would
lines.
like to table this till then, so it gives me time to review them and see. Because it was quite extensive as far as, what was discussed.
But the 24 pages are essentially the things that we got, and you said you read through all of it, and we had just those few corrections.
Well, those few corrections, Paul, I haven't had a chance to go through them, so, I'm sorry.
There's just a couple of lines in there.
I like to read it at my own pace.
I mean, they were definitely all discussed in the meeting that we all attended, all the changes that were taking place. We went through them.
Yeah, I think it's
That
just a
night.
fact checking, right? Like, we discussed it, they documented what we said or what they thought we said. We go back and we proofread it and we say, yeah, that's what we said, that's what I remember. I mean, yeah, I think everything's on the up and up, there's no doubt about that. Again, I haven't read it, so, I just want to know what the issue is, what the impact is with the delay, the TE investigation, I can read the board thing and figure out what happened there, but I agree with Ben, I think we should table it at least till the 10th. That's why there's 7 of us, we can vote.
All right.
Do you want a recommendation?
Yeah.
It is the administration's recommendation that the board approve the revised Tolosa Midway ISD Board Operating Procedures as presented.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Denise makes the motion to accept the administrator's recommendation that the board approve the revised TMISD board operating procedures as presented. And Paul Mastella makes that second. Now we'll take a vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 4-3. Number 3 on the agenda is a report on the budget calendar.
Mr. Carroll?
That's just the timeline for the budget calendar. And then just real briefly, wanted to give you all, this is a schedule of, this is current year teacher salaries at surrounding districts. Just to see where we're standing now. Keep in mind that everybody else is probably going to try to give raises too, so just give an idea of where we're standing right now.
And if you would have gotten this time last year, we would have been about 11th. We would have been way towards the back.
And it's ranked by 0 years, what we call, first year teacher, they're on, everybody calls that step 0. It's ranked by that, so obviously GP's at the far left because they're the highest starting pay. But if you look, there's a lot of variances when you go down the scale. We might be ahead of one district here, but if you go down, when you get to the higher steps, the other district might be higher than us. And you see there's a wide range of how districts separate the steps and how they come up with that. But obviously, one of our first, probably our biggest goal for next year is making sure that we maximize salaries, especially for our teachers. Because the budget, the salaries, payroll, that's pushing almost 80% of the budget is salaries, so. But it is, and I got all this information off websites. It's not every district in Region 2, but I got most of the area ones and the ones that are, closer to our size.
Can you send us the file you made?
Yeah, I will, I'm gonna give it to Chrissy and she can email it to y'all. It's just a spreadsheet, and when you get the full spreadsheet, you'll see, there's smaller districts in the region that I didn't look them up yet, and then there were a couple of, I couldn't find Kingsville's online, so I put a red thing, I didn't have theirs. But when you see it, you'll see all the other districts in Region 2, but I did not update that information is a year old for those other districts when you get it. But I will say, last year, or this year that we're in, a lot of districts, we weren't the only ones that gave significant raises for the current year that we're in.
So when I look at this, how do we know, because like our low is 51, our high, is a 65. Beeville's low is 51, their high is 67, but Beeville's behind us. Like how are we getting that number to where we're putting ourselves here?
Well, I just gave this, obviously, we're gonna look and see what we can do for our salary this year, but you're talking about in comparison to them?
Yeah, because didn't you say like we would have
The
been
year
11th
one.
or 12th or
Yeah.
something, like where does that, is it saying,
Well, no,
starting left, we're 4th?
Yeah, with the districts that I picked, like I said, this isn't every district in Region 2, and this is just our region.
Yeah, I guess that's my question, how did we get to we're 4th? If you look, like I said, you compare people right next to
Well,
us.
no, if I gave you this same report from last year, we were probably about 11th. Our zero-year teacher was.
Based on the earlier
'cause
years.
Last year, our zero-year teacher.
That's what I want to know, that's all I'm asking is it based on the first 0 to 5 years, or is it based on,
No, it's based on step 0, the very first step.
step 0?
A beginning,
Oh,
a
okay.
beginning teacher.
I got you, okay,
That's how it's ranked.
okay. I got you.
And so last year, we were at 47 and change, that was our zero-year teacher salary the year before, and that put us, of course, everybody else gave raises too, but we were probably about 11th on this scale last year, based when our zero-year teaching salary was 47 and change. But our one of our primary goal is to see what we can do to maximize salaries. And then if you look, every month when we meet, we'll update according to the budget calendar. We get a little bit more information and a little bit more data about where we're going on the budget process. Anybody have any questions about the budget calendar? Obviously, the goal is we just have to adopt the budget before the end of August. And if everything goes right, we can adopt the tax rate at the same time. But remember, the tax rate's that's not determined by us anymore. The state pretty much tells us what our tax rate is. And the legislature's meeting, so we will be looking at what the legislature's doing that's gonna throw a little bit of a wrench into the process, because as data becomes, you can read all the bills you want to, and I don't read all of them. Through TASBO and different things, we hear about bills that are really, and I pay attention to the ones that are significant to school finance. But man, there's so many of them, and you want to be familiar with them, but you just got to wait till the end and see what survives and what really happens, so we can make decisions on. Hopefully, we'll get a little bit more help from the state. I'm hoping that they bump up the basic allotment.
Fund enrollment.
And fund enrollment instead of attendance, that would be awesome. They're seriously considering that. But this is the start of the road down to August. Yes, ma'am.
2 questions. First one, and I could do this myself, but I was wondering if you knew. So our average experience for our teachers was like 12.4. How close is that if I multiplied that salary?
Oh, you mean
to
like,
how our
I can
budget
give
is?
you a breakdown. I'll give it to Chrissy. I can tell you what step all our current teachers are
Yeah,
on, so you know
that'd
what
be
that
awesome.
breakdown is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give that to you.
And then second, as we look to adopt a new salary schedule, this might be more for you. Are there strategies for teachers we would like to attract having a greater step change at that point? So like if we wanted 5-year plus teachers, maybe that's a larger jump so someone can come from a
That can
different
be
school?
massaged. Normally, you see the biggest difference in steps in 0 through 10.
Yeah,
And then the veterans sort of get the short end
Yeah.
of the stick. I'm not anticipating the numbers of vacancies this year as what the district saw last year. HR will know a little bit about that more than I will at this time, but we can bring to you any combination of differentiation between the steps as long as it's above TEA minimum, which it comfortably is.
Yeah, you can see the minimum is the blue column on the far right. That's what TA says is the state minimum. That's what you have.
I also anticipate something similar to what we saw with HB 3 and 19, where they're going to allocate monies and then they're going to tell us that they want X percentage of that increase allotment to go to this group. The last time it was the teachers that were over 20 years or 25, or you had to give them 25%.
Actually, it was over 5. It was
Yes.
six and above years had to get a certain percentage of the total raise that, or the total increase in funding that you got. You had to make sure that a certain percentage of that went to teachers with 6 or
It
more
was
years of
difficult to
experience.
calculate.
It was. Glad I can do math, because, yeah, you had to do these formulas to make, so, and we had to prove to the state that that's what we did. So, yes, it did require us to
I
give.
anticipate that'll happen again.
and then I wasn't on the board to get the information on the administrator pay scale. But
Right.
can you also send me that with
Sure.
how many are you
That is new.
bracket?
That is new.
Right.
And then what will also be new for this year, when we wrote in and we wanted the raises, I challenged his department and HR, and they did a terrific job of getting a salary scale
Yeah.
for teachers, paraprofessionals, yes, but correct, paraprofessionals and admin.
Right.
What we missed was clerical.
Well, we missed all the non-certified,
Okay.
all the.
So we've got some work to do with that too. Because prior to this year, there was nothing.
Yeah.
We did inadvertently come up kind of with scales for like our bus drivers and our, some of our other our year-round employees. We kind of already have a structure for them. And that was mainly based upon, demand, and we needed to keep attracting bus drivers, and we needed to keep attracting those certain classifications of people. But the next step is for paraprofessionals and the clerical, to put all the jobs on pay scales, job classifications.
Now, I'll tell you, what we do know is that unlike our teachers, our paraprofessionals are above market.
Yes.
Doesn't mean we pay them enough, but they're above market.
I guess.
Are you saying that they get paid more than other paraprofessionals in the area?
Yes.
Yes.
So I know, like, this is public information. Oh, everyone posts their teacher pay scales. Not everyone posts their paraprofessional pay scales. But if you could provide any of that, the pay scales we currently have, and how many in each one would be excellent.
Yeah, and make sure that goes to all board members.
Yes.
I'll put it in this Friday's connections for you.
Awesome. Any other questions?
And also, please remember that, this is subject to change. If we, when we get to the end, if we have to have we might have to have some special meetings in there if we need to, especially if something develops, if we know for sure that this is what's changing, then we might have to have some more meetings in there. But this is a fluid thing to get us to August and get this process done.
This is great to see, and so everybody knows what's going on.
Let me ask you, Philip, we got a question. And doesn't have to do with this exactly, but how well are you keeping up with what happens if Abbott gives all these tax cuts to individuals?
Well,
That's gonna hit our tax base. Well, there's 2 points there. So first of all, we're gonna take a big hit for the taxes coming up in the next year or two. We're gonna have but the way I look at things is Governor Abbott's a real smart guy. So he's gonna give us the tax break first. And you don't think the refinery guys are gonna say, hey, where's our cut?
Yeah.
Then we're really gonna take a hit on our tax bracket. Have you figured out, any possibilities there?
no, but I'm optimistic that whatever happens, the state is going to have some kind of hold harmless provision that we cannot be drastically harmed by something. Because that's not their intention. Now, I might be putting too much optimism on that, but I really can't, their goal, I understand their goal is reducing the tax impact on taxpayers, but they also know that they've got to make up the difference. I mean, they can't,
Well, you hope they do.
Well, they did with the last exemption when it went from 20 to 40.
yeah, 25 to 40.
They held us harmless, and what the state, I believe, is going to do is, we just received a notice of grant award for $241,000 for safety, okay? Well, that was owed us back many months ago, and what I see the state doing is using that old money as part of new money that needs to be addressed. I could be wrong, but I'm somewhat cynical when it comes to what they're gonna flow down to a TMISD. But it is something we need to keep our eyes on, that if they're giving significant property tax reduction, which I think was a campaign promise of the governor, and we all pay property taxes, and we all want to pay less. But at the end of the day, the basic allotment's a little over 6,000, and they can't reduce that.
Right.
Yeah, well, I'm not so much worried about the individual taxes, because that's what, 11%?
Right, of the percent.
Once we get taken care of, corporate's gonna come after that money, and that's what worries me. I just wanted.
That's true, but
That would balance, wouldn't it, as far as if they take that away?
right, but the
we'll
way the
see more
formula works and what, like I said, what's not hurting us now with Flint Hills having their big protest every year, they're withholding what they don't want to pay, what they think they shouldn't have to pay. Well, the state is making up the difference.
Except with INS.
Yes, that's where the actual.
Where it's hurting us is on the bond side, because what they're not paying on that lowers our ability we have to raise our INS rate in order to generate enough taxes to maybe do what we want to do if we have a successful bond election, so.
And as a trustee, I just want the community to know that, we're aware of what could happen, and we just want to make sure that,
Right.
our administration is aware of,
Absolutely.
keeping us tabs on that, because that's millions of dollars.
I approach this, though, the only way I think I have to look at it is, in accounting, they call it going concern. I'm planning on being around next year. TMISD is gonna be around for a while, and so we have to go on that assumption that we will not be harmed by any legislation that would have a significant impact upon our district. So that's where I start from. But yes, when the legislature meets, there's a lot of talk and there's a lot of bills out there and there's a lot of discussion. But you just have to wait till the dust settles and what happens. And then as soon as we hear something, we know that it's really gonna take place, and then we might have to try to be prepared for that. But it's a tough, legislative years are a little tough because of that. Okay, how do we plan for the next year when we don't really know everything that's gonna happen? And we have to adopt a budget before we know where everything is gonna fall, so.
Chrissy,
First year.
do you mind printing this out, just so that we have it at the end?
Yes.
So that everybody can take it home with them, put it on the refrigerator or wherever they put their calendars. All
Cardboard.
right. Do we have a recommendation?
It's a report only.
It's a report on, yeah.
Okay, no board action is needed. Moving on to number 4, discuss and consider TMISD board training options, TASB Exceptional Governance XG, and TEA Lone Star Governance Camp.
Madam President, members of the board, what I'm looking for here from you is a little direction on how you want me to proceed with scheduling some intensive board training. The agency and the conversation that Mr. Arriaga, Ms. Boone, and myself was on, would it be fair to say that they favored Lone Star governance?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Very much so, they made it.
I know, Mr. Mastella, you're familiar with exceptional governance, Paul? You want to tell us a little bit about, so I've gotten, well, before you go, we've put together some information, basic information on both. I've been through Lone Star governance, but I haven't been through XG. So Paul, if you could give your information.
I can't give you all the detailed specifics other than what was in the board packet on what they were, because it's intense training, but it's not as long and drawn out as, Lone Star governance. And talking with different board members that have been through Lone Star governance and others have gone through exceptional governance, they, the biggest thing was the number of meetings with Lone Star governance and the time that it took. And then the others, not as a comparison, but the exceptional governance was a little more concise. It didn't take quite as many meetings. So, it's 6 one, half dozen the other, whatever the state recommends. But we've been trying to get Lone Star governance for how long now?
Since I've been here.
Yeah, and you've not been able to.
They called us though, didn't they? Did Lone Star call us here recently?
TEA called and referenced Lone Star Governance, sending information over. TASB has been in contact with us a few times, and there's an assessment that the board can already do to see if that's the route they'd like to go.
So when I first came on board, we reached out for Lone Star governance. We heard nothing. And then after we had the phone call, that triggered something within TEA for them to call us regarding Lone Star, correct?
It's TASB. TASB was the one we had trouble getting a hold of. We had been, the XG training, we had been emailing and calling and messages, and they finally called back, and now we're inundated with emails and phone calls from them.
For XG.
What about Lone Star?
We've received one phone call from them.
After the phone conference?
After the
That's what I
conference,
thought.
yes.
What's the time difference? Well, y'all said Lone Star's really long. How long is really long?
I want to say 2 years.
Yeah.
It's a 2-year course?
Yes. So I do know that from going to the TASB conventions, of course, we were at TASB, and that's one of the ones, of course, they're gonna, some of the boards that were very, very successful and that were up there on the stage and stuff, they did go to this governance XG. So they were in attendance of this governance camp.
And how long was that one? It said in the packet, right?
6 meetings, I
Yes,
think.
it's 6, it depends. You can have, the basics is 5, but it can go longer if you wish.
Yeah.
But
In 2 years, is meetings what, once a month, twice a month? I mean, what?
Paul, I've been through Lone Star governance, and I don't remember it being 2 years, but that's what I think I'm finding it to be. It was like 3 weekends. Now, it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, That's a weekend. I know. And it's all day. And back then, the leverage that the agency used on us to force us to go was, we had a $3 million grant that the contingent on being awarded was the board going to Lone Star Governance. So in essence, we had a gun to our head.
And then, is there a price associated with Lone Star? Or just with
Yeah,
the?
they're all,
There's a price with both.
I couldn't tell you what it is, Denise. But yeah, there's a price for both. I don't think you can go wrong with either one. I think it's gonna be beneficial. I don't know how much weight TEA is gonna put on us either going to Lone Star or XG. I mean, you all were on the call. What do you think?
I mean, of course, they're going to recommend the
Their own.
governance program that they put out.
So I think when he talked to us, he made a lot of references to, he didn't think it was gonna go this far, he didn't think, the different levels that we could get monitored.
Board of managers.
Board of managers, those high levels, he said a lot of, I don't think it's gonna go that far. But I think we're in a position where we can't take any chances because of the investigation still, we don't know. I mean,
We don't know.
I don't know if they're gonna come out of that investigation and say, yeah, it was really bad. And we say, well, we went to XG, and they say, well, we told you to go to Lone Star. I don't know, I think our hands are tied, unfortunately, it's just my opinion. I think we have to give ourselves the best opportunity to get out of this pickle that we're in with this investigation, so.
Well, I do know that we won't be done with governance training as a board by the time the TEA report comes, correct?
I'm not sure, because I don't think.
I would doubt it, the way he made it sound like we should be getting a report relatively soon, not with 2
We have-
years.
That's kind of what I thought.
We have sent what I sent you, we mailed it and emailed it Thursday, Wednesday? When did we send that up to Austin?
I would say Thursday.
Okay. So it's on their table right now. We could hear any day.
Okay, Lone Star Governance is a year-long program with an option for a 1-year extension. That's where we got 2 years from.
Yeah, that's what it
There you
is. There's
I didn't
something,
remember it being 2 years.
you'd like
Now,
just,
I'm
So 1
getting
year,
old
yeah,
and,
you did the 1 year.
and I don't rely on my
Is it
So
here
memory.
when-
locally, or is it done somewhere else, or?
I went in a hotel room downtown. And it wasn't just our district. There were 3 or 4 other districts that were with us. And I'm sure it's based on your facilitator, but I saw the ex-commissioner of education not allowed to come into the room because he was 5 minutes late. And I saw 2 or 3 trustees from other districts that extended their break and they had to go home. Pretty strict rules.
They do that at the
For a volunteer
convention.
position, huh?
Yeah.
For a volunteer position, that's how you get
Yeah.
treated, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
see, that's where TASB's exceptional governments, you know, we know who their instructors are. When I was a board member, if you went through the package.
Right.
He is a board member.
Mine was A.J. Crabble, which was full-time employed with TEA. He's a well-known advocate. He's very strict.
Are you talking about Esperanza, Paul?
Yes.
Okay.
Have we asked Cruz or any of them how these are perceived by the TEA? Like, what's his understanding in past cases he's had where, have they had any negative light from not following
Which
their
one did Houston
recommendation?
take?
Is who?
I haven't asked.
I mean, it may be worth asking, right?
Yeah. They probably did Lone Star government.
Bless their
Because
hearts.
we definitely want to show we're making a good faith effort to do
totally
what we
agree.
need to do. And I don't want to short, the community or ourselves by.
And I don't know if anybody's seen what we sent, but I thought our response was strong.
Yes, it was.
I agree.
I agree. It was.
Both of these governance programs teach you to stay focused on student outcomes. So both of them accomplish, their end goal is the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, my opinion is, I mean, I would like to do both of them, if we do one now and then another in 2 years, and I don't mind starting with Lone Star now, because I think everyone on the board, especially as people cycle through, we should all be attending these things, so. Lone Star sounds good to me, especially because TA said it, but.
Well, we can't get enough training, that's for sure. Anybody have any other discussion, comments? Are we all kind of leaning towards the TA Lone Star Governance Camp to move forward with getting information from there?
I like Lone Star Governance.
I think that, and then get some information from Cruz about what is what is his recommendation in his legal battles that he's representing, Have you gone against the recommendation, right? What comes with that? What implications come with it?
That's it, and I think you've given me direction. Okay.
So this was just report only.
Yes.
Number 5 on the agenda is to discuss and consider first reading of TASB Policy Update 120 Local Video.
Madam President, members of the board, this is update is it 120?
120?
120? Gosh, I remember when it was update 50.
Is that like a revision? 120 is like a revision? Holy cow.
Yes. That's how old I am.
He's just saying he's been through that many.
Dr. White, turn it over to you.
So sure, before we get into the discussion on first reading, we're going to watch a short video on just the policy, on the policies that are included in Update 120, but focusing specifically on just the 3 that apply to us, CKC, FNG, and FO.
I had a question. What pushes forward updates like this? Like,
Legislative action, it just,
so it just passed in the legislature? Like,
they're behind.
they're behind. Okay, that's my question.
Or sometimes, Denise, they'll fairly soon after the legislature adopt policy, then they'll look and it has a domino effect on other policy that needs to be changed. I think that's somewhat the case with these 3.
Yes, and then also too, there are specific policies that receive special attention that get updates, and so that will drive additional updates, and that's included a little bit in here with the student discipline update, for instance. That was driven by a prior update, and as Mr. Van Mantry said, it takes a while for all that to settle. People meet, they talk, they discuss, and then they take action as far as how to revise so that everything is streamlined across the board, and obviously that takes a little bit of time.
Okay, got it.
This is your first video, right? With the policy? Okay.
Hello and welcome to a brief overview of the local policy recommendations included in Update 120 presented by TASB Policy Service. While not covered in this overview, many of the legal policies included in this update were affected by legislative and regulatory changes. Most of the local policy recommendations in this update are intended to clarify current policy language. If your district was one of the early districts recommended changes to this policy. In 2021, the Texas Education Agency issued guidance regarding ESSER III funding. Guidance recommended that districts develop policy language to address how the district will give public notice of federal grants and awards. In response to the TEA guidance, TASB Policy Service sent out a policy alert to all districts in May 2021, requesting that districts provide us with the appropriate information to prepare a policy draft for their district. While many districts responded to that policy alert and updated their policies, some districts are currently missing the recommended provisions. For those districts, CB Local is included in Update 120. In addition to the public notice provisions, new language authorizes the superintendent to approve any required plans for use of the grant award. If the board retains authority to approve any plans for use of federal funds, please contact your policy consultant for an appropriate revision. For all districts, new text is included in policy CKC Local that reflects current law. This change requires a district's multi-hazard emergency plan to include responding to a train derailment near a district school if the district facility is within 1,000 yards of a railroad. If your policy currently includes text that permits the board's authorization of certain employees or board members to possess firearms on district property, we have recommended additional revisions to this policy. One key change establishes the authority of both the superintendent and the board to revoke an employee's authorization to possess firearms on district property. Another recommended revision includes firearms among the equipment that requires district approval. The last major change to the policy clarifies that the procedures to implement the security program are detailed in the district's emergency operations plan. Districts of innovation who exempted themselves from Education Code 22.004 will find recommended revisions to CRD Local. Education Code 22.004 prohibited a district from offering group healthcare plans comparable to TRS Active Care. Many districts exempted themselves from this law with their innovation plans. In 2021, the 87th Texas Legislature revised the insurance code and prohibited districts participating in TRS Active Care from offering competing coverage. Since districts cannot exempt themselves from the insurance code, any exemption from Education Code 22.004 is ineffective and is recommended for removal from CRD Local. Districts of innovation who exempted themselves from Education Code 21.401 will find recommended revisions to DC Local. In 2019, the 86th Texas Legislature revised this law to permit districts that anticipate providing fewer than 180 days of instruction to reduce the minimum number of contract days proportionally. It is no longer necessary to address this exemption in policy, and the exemption language is recommended for removal. In EC Local, many districts of innovation included an exemption from Education Code 25.081E and Education Code 25.082A. These sections of the law required a school day to be at least 420 minutes or 7 hours. In 2017, the 85th Texas Legislature repealed this requirement. It is no longer necessary to address this exemption in policy, and the exemption language is recommended for removal. The revisions to FNG Local can be found at other complaint processes. The recommendations clarify other processes regarding special education complaints and hearing procedures to resolve disputes regarding eligibility under the school nutrition programs. If applicable, an individual would first attempt to resolve concerns using the process referenced in this section before filing a complaint under FNG Local. In FO Local, the recommended revisions clarify when restraint may be used and address more prominently restraint of a student receiving special education services. That covers the local policies in Update 120. We hope you find this overview helpful. Should you have any questions or want further clarification, please feel free to contact your assigned policy consultant. And don't forget to notify us of board action on this update using Policy Online.
So this is just first reading, so discussion, no action taken, but if there are any questions or just any need to clarify anything from the video or just from the actual cover letter or reading.
Do we have any railroads within 1,000 roads?
Yeah, 44 by the high school.
That railroad doesn't run through the line there? That would-
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, but that's more than
a spur.
1,000.
That's a spur that's still over 1,000.
Okay.
Regardless though of the feed, it's still being recommended as an update, so I'm assuming it's close enough perhaps that maybe it could be an issue, but
All right, first reading, no board action needed. If there's no more questions, we'll move on to agenda item number 6, discuss and consider election of ESC-2 board members.
Madam President, members of the board, Ms. Castillo, do they have everything they need, or you're passing that out right now? Do you want to give them some directions?
So it's telling me that you, board members, I'm sorry, let me start again. In your board book, you had 2 resumes in there for the 2 people listed that I'm gonna pass out the ballot for election to you. So you're only gonna mark 1. I hope you had a chance to look over resumes and make a decision. I know the incumbent's listed and then a new nominee. So all you're gonna do on the blue sheet that I'm giving you now, you just mark on your ballot form who you're voting for, and then I will collect these and I will submit everything back to the ESC and they will take it from there. Here you go.
Thank you.
Yes.
Can we ask a question or no? Sure. About the people? How the incumbent was on our education foundation or currently is? How was he in terms of helping our school?
I don't think.
Because he put it on in the resume.
Yeah, well, he was on there for a short period of time. Yeah, I mean, he was there.
Are you talking about the Education Foundation?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that on there.
Yeah.
So he came
Yeah.
to a meeting?
Yeah, he
Okay.
came to some meetings, but it was, I didn't get to go to all the meetings, but the ones I was there, he was there intermittently. Mercy, I should say.
I also don't have a writing utensil.
Okay, I have plenty here.
You finally found her unprepared.
She's electronic.
Oh, yeah, she's on.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
I forgot.
It doesn't surprise me at all.
Young folks.
Yeah.
Can we promote one of these persons?
I've seen it done.
Well, I'm asking, I don't want to get in trouble.
You won't get in trouble
I
from
know
me.
Alex Garcia, he's a great guy,
I've seen,
great businessman.
I've seen on other boards advocacy. I don't think there's anything that we receive from the ESC that prohibits that. Is that
I've
correct?
not seen anything in this packet. No, sir.
Go for it.
I would advocate for Alex Garcia. His family has been in business in Corpus for as long as my family, since the 40s and 50s. Very well educated guy, his great family. I would recommend him, that's who I'm gonna vote for.
No, you're fine.
Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you. Okay. You have them all?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. The next agenda item is number 7, discuss and consider adoption of meal prices for the food service for 2023 to 2024.
Madam President, members of the board, this agenda item certainly has excellent representation with our food service people and our finance, and I'll let you start off the conversation, Mr. Carroll.
Okay, even though we were on CEP for 4 years where everybody ate for free, we dropped off of that this year. And the only campus that's on CEP now is the primary. So, but regardless of that, whether you're on CEP, whether you're doing anything, I don't know how many years ago, it's been several years, but what the feds started requiring us to do is, like right now, the reimbursement rate for a free lunch is $4.35. So for a qualified student that gets a free lunch, we get $4.35. What the feds are requiring us is, we've got to, all districts have to do this. Your paid lunch prices, whether you're on CEP or not, but what your official paid prices are, need to start approaching that, because what they're trying to prevent is, yes, you're getting $4.35 for the free kids, but the paid kids, you're only charging them, like right now, I think secondary lunch is $2.75. So what they're saying is, you can't subsidize, you can't get more money from the feds for a free person than what you're not making your paid people. They're trying to get equity between what you're charging your paid people versus. So we did this even during the 4 years we were on CEP. I still brought slight increases to keep us pushed towards those numbers. We're still way below the federal reimbursement rate. And I did do a few checks. CCISD, I think, is still doing one. I think no one's paying at CCISD. But the school districts that were on CEP for the 4 years because of Hurricane Harvey, and they dropped back off. Now, and we can't talk about GP because they've got more money than God, and so they can afford to keep doing it. But I will tell you, this year's prices, like right now, this year's secondary lunch at Cal Allen is already $3. Secondary at Flower Bluff is $3.25. I'm sorry. I'm proposing $3. Cal Allen is $3.25 this year, and they're probably going to have to go up a little bit on it because everybody's having to do it. Flower Bluff is at $3.15. London's is at $3. That's their current, and they are not on CEP, or that's what they're charging right now. But unfortunately, that's the rationale. Now, we're still preparing for next year. We have to turn in our proposal to extend Sodexo for another year, which we already have. But we're still going to evaluate and look and see what we're going to do as far as, what happened this year was, we were already into the new year. For Mr. Amici said, well, hey, why don't we extend the free another year? Well, it was too late for us to do that. But we can look at a legitimate way we can spend our fund balance down is if we include more campuses officially under the CEP. Now, what that means is your percentage is going to be, usually it's not economically feasible to do it if your percentage number comes up less than 90%. Because what that means is, of all the eligible, everybody eats for free, and if you serve 1,000 eligible meals, you're only going to get reimbursed for, if you get 90%, you're only going to get reimbursed for 90% of them, so for 900 of them. And you're getting, whatever the cost of those other 100, you're going to have to absorb that cost. You're not going to get any money for that. So that's why, most districts, you want that percentage to be pretty high in order to do that. Well, we've got this healthy fund balance, so we're going to continue to verify that before we, once we start our program for next year, to see if we can legitimately do it. Go ahead and include more campuses in that way, so everybody can eat free on those campuses, but we can absorb that offset with our fund balance.
Not the general fund balance.
Right, this is the food service fund.
This
not
is,
the-
but I got burned earlier this year, and so, Crystal, we're gonna rely heavily on Sedesco to guide us if we do offer a free lunch, breakfast across the board like we are this year, and we have to pay, I think you said we were at 83, we have to pay the 17%. Will that be an allowable expenditure from food service fund balance?
I actually.
Which is very high.
I called the Education Service Center just to.
Not Region 2.
Yes, Region 2.
All right, they're the ones that gave us the bad information.
Well, I read on this too, and I knew that statement is correct. So basically, when we submitted our CEP numbers today, we're at 83.5% for the district to encompass all campuses eating for free. And so if we do that, the district wouldn't have to reimburse the food service budget from general fund to food service fund if we get everybody on CEP for next school year.
We could reimburse from
From
food
our
service,
own, yes, yes,
which is very healthy.
yes.
And keep in mind that 83%, that's a number, we take our actual percentage and multiply by a factor to get
1.6, yes.
to get to that number. So that, we're not at 83% of our students aren't free and reduced. It's our actual numbers by campus, you multiply by that factor, and that's what comes up with your number if you apply to be on the CEP program.
Yes, and if the district chooses to do that for one more year, so with CEP, you have up to 4 years. And next year, if the district chooses to do that, we could do that 1 year, evaluate it, and before the next school year, if the district determines, that's not feasible, let's get the whole district off CEP, you can do that, and you can go back to.
Do you have a
collecting that.
calculation of what impact that 17% will have on the food service fund balance?
No, I don't have it off the top of my head, but right now we are at 95% CEP at the primary campus. So we get reimbursed the 95% at the free rate and the rest of the percent is at the paid rate. The rest of the campuses combined, we're at 61% free and reduced. So overall, for the rest of the district, we're only getting reimbursed at that rate for the district. So if we go this way, it's 83.5, so it's better.
Oh, yeah, much better.
My question is, this year, we still got hit for the whole thing, right? Because they gave you the wrong information.
Well, and we did it too late.
Yes,
It
so,
was in other words, we weren't approved for that.
Right.
That's
For
correct.
that. So we got hit, what was our total that came out of our general fund for the food
I haven't,
service?
the year's not over with yet, but we're projecting it, I think, to be about, I'm gonna say maybe between 300 and 400,000
Probably, yeah,
is what
probably
the total cost is gonna be once the year is over with.
And having said that and reading,
Yeah, I wouldn't take ES2 information.
having said that and reading all of the hardships that districts who have gone to where there's no more free or reduced lunch and the bills that these families owe, I think we made the right decision, even we had to pay $300,000. It gave our families a bridge that I think they needed.
I know that if we're going to go to this, that we need to educate parents again on how to put the money on their kids' accounts. I mean, because we're talking, this was pre-COVID, when we were still putting money on our kids' accounts. If this is gonna go into place, we need to start educating everybody on how to do that again and how to set up the accounts and all of that, because we've got primary kids that have never had to have accounts set up.
That's Harvey, that's true.
But I don't think we're gonna have to charge is that fair to say? I mean,
Yes,
the numbers are looking good that we're gonna be able to extend this to our community.
That 17% will be our cost, more or less.
Yes, but the key thing is not out of our fund balance. It comes out of the food service
We
fund
have a
balance.
$2 million fund balance in food service.
So we have to pay, then we get reimbursed it.
No, what,
just get-
no, like I said, if we offer, or if kids come through and take 1,000 lunches this month, eligible reimbursable lunches, then we would only be able to ask for reimbursement for 830 of them. Because we can only get reimbursed for 83% of them. We would not get any money for the 17%.
That comes out of our general fund.
That would have to come, it would come out of the fund balance.
Food service.
It would come out of the food
So
service.
is the 17% off of the 300,000 to 400,000 a good number?
Zero.
Is that how much we would pay? Off the 300,000, 400,000 we lost this
No,
year?
I'd have to go back and look and see what our numbers are, and that's the other thing too, you know, it should be similar to this year, because the problem with food service is we haven't had like a normal year, we haven't had 2 normal years together to try to, what's next year gonna look like, because we're doing something different this year. So every
Also,
time-
and I want to get to your question. If we don't spend food service fund balance, there's a negative impact to that, correct?
Well, you get scolded, and you're told that you have too much money in your fund balance, and you need to come up with a plan of how you're gonna spend it. So we have a very healthy fund balance, and I would argue that our kitchens are not in dire want of anything, like our kitchens are adequately, the equipment is good, it's
Was the freezer at the high school finally replaced?
that is that project, I don't know if they've started working yet, but.
Because that comes out of that balance, right?
Yes.
But we've already accounted for that.
Yes.
Hold on a second. Denise had a question. She was.
No, they could continue. I'll ask him.
It all went out to bid, remember, in January, and we did all that. It's not scheduled to get started until May, after we graduate school, because we're waiting on the electrical panel, 32 weeks for the electrical panel.
Yeah. But unfortunately, regardless of all our planning and what we're gonna do, we still have to go through this exercise of approving these prices tonight. So these
The
prices.
other exercise down the road will be a policy that you will approve, I believe it's a policy, for delinquent accounts, how we're gonna manage that.
You kind of don't want to start till May anyway, right? Because that's less amount of kids over the summer, over the summer
Yeah,
school
we need to wait till
work.
the kitchen's not
Yeah.
needed.
At full capacity?
At full capacity, yeah.
We worked out to where we didn't have to rent a portable freezer.
Yeah.
We're not doing it that way.
Okay.
But it seems ridiculous. I think I really think there's a good chance that we can keep offering free
Do we have a
meals to
long-term
everybody.
forecast? Or do we just do this every year and say,
I think we have, right now, I'd say we gotta go on a year-to-year basis, like, if I project out these numbers, and that's what you'll see, the budget amendment that I brought to y'all, it's for the food service fund. I took what our participation has been, the total reimbursable meals we've served so far, and I kind of projected it out, and to get the budget lined up close to what this year's gonna look like. And I think if that's something everybody's eating for free, so hopefully the numbers will be similar, so we can project, what our number would look like. And I'm definitely gonna start crunching those numbers here, to see, but I would say we do it on an annual basis, and like Crystal said, we can, like, the primary was on it this year, and technically, they could stay on it for 4 years, for 3 more years, because it's a 4-year cycle. But next year, if we decide to include all the campuses, and we can take a hit out of the fund balance for that year, the fund balance will absorb that deficit for that year and still have money for improvements that we need to do and equipment that we need to replace. And then we'll evaluate it and see if we can do that another year. And just do it but when we do that, what Crystal told me was, we can still line everything up. It's like all the schools are starting over again. We apply, if we do it next year, all 5 campuses will be on, where they can be on there for 4 more years if we want. But we can still evaluate every year and change it.
But that's why I'm asking, you said the fund balance would take a hit.
The food service fund
Food
balance.
service, okay.
Food service fund balance.
Not the general, that's the one I worry about.
Food service fund balance.
Our minds just automatically go to that general
Yes.
fund. Yes.
Yes, I'm getting ready to, we're getting ready to do submit the financial report to TDA, and we're gonna have to tell them what our plan is. We're gonna get slapped and say, you got too much of a fund balance, how are you gonna spend it down? Because to them, 3 months of operating is what your fund balance should be. If you've got more than 3 months of average operating expenses in your fund balance, it's considered excessive, and you have to tell them what's your plan for getting it down.
Well, if we can help the families and feed the kids, and it technically doesn't cost us anything, I mean, that's a no-brainer, isn't it? I mean, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, at the secondary campus, you're looking at $60 a month for just one kid.
One kid.
One kid.
Just one kid.
That has to be budgeted.
But
Denise?
like I said, regardless of all that, we still have to go through this motion of approving the prices for next year. Yes, ma'am.
If nobody got free lunch, what is the actual price point?
You mean if no students qualified for free lunch, or?
Yes. Because, so I love the idea that if we can all be on the CEP program, this doesn't matter much to me, right? But I hate the principle of we're having to do a price increase just because we're getting too much money from kids that are eligible.
But it's.
Because we're punishing.
Well, no, that's not the premise.
It's not really-
You're
the premise
doing a
is-
price increase because the variance between
I
what the
understand, that's why I'm
reimbursement-
asking, what is the actual price
Yes.
point?
I don't know that.
Well, I mean,
Because,
like I said, the.
because I would rather,
Reimbursement
if,
right now is 4.35, and they increase it every year, don't
Yeah,
they?
so there's an actual calculation of how to determine the price. And so there's a calculation for even the adult pricing. So it goes by reimbursements that a district would be getting for a free student. So how Philip mentioned, $4.35. Then you have to do like a commodity rate of
Yeah.
22 cents.
I understand the
43 cents.
complexity of it, but I'm asking for the cost of our contract and the amount of food you're providing to the district, what is that price we would need to charge if nobody was paying? And how does that compare to what we're gonna make the working families pay?
Are you talking about Sodexo's fixed meal rates per meal? I'm sorry, I'm trying to follow
Yes,
what you're
taking
saying.
out all of the government funding.
I guess if you did that, you'd have to multiply, we'd have to estimate what we were selling and calculate what our fixed meal cost would be versus if everybody was paying.
Which it starts at $4.35. Is that correct?
Well, no, our fixed meal rates are a lot less than that to Sodexo.
No, yeah,
But
That's the federal government.
Yeah.
exactly, that's what I'm saying.
And, yeah, so I mean, so let's say it's actually $2.75, and government's just giving us extra money, and that's why they're wanting us to do the increases. So that's why we're I don't wanna keep saying punishing, but making fake increases not due upon inflation for working families. And, I mean, I would rather just say, federal government, you overpaid us, here's, like, I don't know. But if we're all on the CEP program, I really don't care about any of that.
Unfortunately, if you don't, I mean, it's like
Like we get
you
audited.
either opt in or
You'll get
you opt out. I
penalized.
mean,
Yeah, so TDA comes and reviews the program every 3 years. And when they review the program, one thing is finances. So they want to see that the district is doing their increases of that paid price, like Philip mentioned earlier. Ultimately, that goal is for that paid kid to pay as much as a free reimbursement. So the district ultimately is not losing money.
I get that.
Yeah.
I'm saying, is $4.65 actually what the price point is, though?
Oh, well,
Because I
the
don't
cost
wanna
of a meal,
overcharge.
Probably, no, it's probably below that. I mean, if you looked at our fixed meal rates, that's the cost of food and all of our costs, our labor, everything wrapped up in that as a meal cost. And then above that, you would have, if Philip is doing indirects of electricity or
And we have to pay to make all our equipment, you know, that's our cost. Sodexo doesn't pay for that. We have to repair equipment, we have to maintain equipment, we clean grease traps, everything we do to maintain the kitchens, you know, that's overhead that we have to pay for every year in addition to what we're paying them. And even if we were self-op, you still have to pay all that stuff. You still have to, those operating costs,
And that all comes from the food service?
that's all in the food service fund.
But the only thing funding the food service is the selling of food?
Yes, that's it.
Okay.
That's
So
all
if-
you can do. Now, we
I
have,
would like that number, if we could get that number. So, like, if someone came and asked me, oh, they're charging this $60 a month, I can say, oh, well, actually, like, you're getting a steal, because you should be paying this, right? But if I'm like, well, anyways, that's just my comment.
So the best thing is to keep this program going.
Yes.
Keep the program going.
That's it.
The moral to the story.
Moral of the story, approve the
Good,
prosecution.
good summary.
and I told Mr. Dimitri, I said, we evaluate on a year-to-date basis and we keep this going. And, I mean,
As long as we
TDA wants us to spend our fund balance down. And as long as we make sure our equipment's operating and we're maintaining our kitchens so that they have everything they need to operate, which I think we can, even with this big project. We have two big expenditures coming up. We have the high school kind of remodel, fix the freezer thing. And then we're getting ready to buy new furniture, new seating for the high school, I think, and another primary. So those two things are gonna be about $600,000. But we have a $2 million excess fund balance. So even with that, I
So
think.
just simple numbers, Phil, if it costs us 400,000 this year, if we take 17% of that, you're talking about $60,000 a year. That'll hit our fund balance,
Possibly, yeah.
60 to
That's what I was saying
70,000.
earlier, yeah.
So we still have a good
Healthy.
2-3 years are
Very
healthy.
healthy.
I mean, I don't know if I'm figuring it right or not, but
And I think, you know, even when the dust settles this year, you know, when I transfer to the general fund what it's gonna owe food service, the general fund's gonna have a profit again. I mean, the food service fund's gonna have even though my amendment shows that they're gonna be a little bit of a deficit, I think when the dust settles, the food service fund balance is gonna go up again at the end of this year. Since the general fund's having to make up for the students that are not eligible. So, the food service fund is very, very healthy. This is the way to go, as long as we can, to spend down the fund balance. At the same time, maintaining our equipment and making sure that our facilities are up to date and they've got everything they need, so.
Question, what's a teacher pay for lunch?
It should be, I think the calculated cost with all the formula should be $450. And that is what the state gives us.
Right.
And we have to follow that. And that's the formula that we have to use, and that's what we have to do.
And that's not, y'all don't approve that because they tell us.
Within the Sodexo network, you know, teachers eating free is a nice benefit. Do you see any districts being innovative in providing that subsidy to their staff?
No, you would have to pay for that out of your general fund. So it absolutely could be done. I work with, as a district manager, I work with 11 school districts across Texas, and I don't have a single school district that subsidizes their staff meals.
I was familiar with another school district that they did this for a while. And what they did was the district gave, I think, a $2 discount. And at the end of the month, the director would create an invoice that would go to the district, and then the district would pay that invoice for that cost. And then, of course, when you get audited, you would have to be able to show that, yes, they only paid $2 and the other $2 came from the district.
Yeah, it'd be the same tracking as
Yeah,
what you're doing for you.
What I was familiar with was, let's say, $100,000 budget encumbrance for staff eating free. but they also had to eat free in the cafeteria. So you had additional supervision.
That's pretty smart.
It's like the officers.
Yes. Okay.
But, so y'all, that fund can't help any with the teachers. How many teachers do we have? 600, 500, 600?
We have about 350 certified teachers.
300. So that would be 150, 140,000, 150,000.
Yeah. But yeah, TDA, that's why they have to calculate what an adult has to pay. They do not want federal funds supplementing your teachers, getting a discount or getting a free lunch. That's not what the lunch program's for. It's for the kids, it's not for the adults. And we do have some, à la carte sales. There are some things that, the kids, if they want them, extra things, they're not part of a reimbursable meal, but those have to be paid for. And that's why we still have the accounts, because people put money in the accounts so they can do the à la carte purchases.
And somewhat off topic, but not really. Did you see our kitchen's got a perfect score?
Yes,
Congratulations.
congratulations. The portion sizes, who sets those up?
USDA. By age group. They're very limiting. They're
Yeah, we
very
heard that.
limiting sodium.
Because
At
our
our
older kids
conference,
are really complaining about the
At the-
portion size that they're getting, our
At
high
the
school
conference,
kids.
There was one kid on stage said, well, I wish we got more pizza. One slice is not enough.
It's not, especially for growing kids or athletes, but it is, we are so restricted on what we can do. And even using USDA commodities, like if you're using deli meat from USDA commodities, it is a challenge to even make a sandwich with sodium requirements that are in the turkey, deli meat, and cheese, processed cheese. The sodium restrictions in the child nutrition program as they stand right now are more restrictive than if you went into the hospital on renal failure. And they're in legislation to restrict them even more.
The sugar content.
Yes.
And cardboard.
Yes, it makes it tasteless. Yes, it's low fat and it has no
Had to
taste.
say it. All right. So we have a recommendation. Any more questions, y'all? No?
It is the administration's recommendation that the board approve the proposed paid meal prices as presented.
I'll make that motion, please.
I'll second that.
All right, we have Paul that made the motion for the administration's recommendation that the board approve the proposed paid meal prices as presented, and Ben seconded it. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries 6-1. All right, moving on to agenda item number 9. Oh, number 8, I'm sorry, a report on the TMHS course catalog.
Madam President, members of the board, we have our high school principal and our CTE coordinator waiting patiently to proudly present the 23-24 Tulosi Midway High School course guide.
I like it in this form better than it.
This is information only, and I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, sounds good. So we are in the process of finishing registration for our kids. Our students have already received their initial PGPs. It's been an
Can you
exhaustive.
explain PGP?
It's a personal graduation plan for our kids. Ordinarily, at this time of year, we're kind of way past that, but with the addition of the TAMU classes, the Coastal Bend College classes, and shifting from a 7-period day to an 8-period day, all PGPs for all kids had to be redone from scratch. So what you'll see today is you're gonna see the process of how how it was made, and the Coastal Bend College courses that have been added, the TAMU courses that have been added, the certifications we've added for our kids, and any new IBCs that have been added as well. Okay, so the things that have changed from the old plan, we have counseling procedures that have changed. We've added the Warpath Academy, the Coastal Bend College, Texas A&M, Kingsville. Our CT programs have been updated with the new, I guess you'd say, guidelines.
Yeah, new programs of study, new guidelines for courses that have to be taken in certain order, grade levels.
So it used to be that we kind of got to pick the order in which kids took classes. Now the state is actually taking the actual state ID number that the kids take in order and putting that in order themselves, which makes us a little weary. But to get that, to generate that funding, so that it's more of an automated process. Our dual credit courses have changed, and so is our IBCs. It now reflects the new list and degrees and certifications that are offered. Okay, so what we've done is that TEI's come up with some guidance as far as how to do schedule changes and when PGPs need to be fixed and turned in. We're starting this all the way back in 8th grade, so that kids can have a plan from beginning to end of how their graduation is going to be determined, and in the order in which they have to take those sequence classes. It's a couple of years ago, I guess, informed advising became a thing. That's when the state decided that students who were taking dual credit classes actually had to be put on a plan, so they're not overspending your own money and taking classes that are not in line with your degree plan. And they put a firm limit as far as how much over you can go. So as we're doing that, and now that we're offering so many college classes, we have to do that as well. Coastal Bend College helps us, and Kingsville helps us as well do that.
They also said that now students cannot change their program of study until they are juniors in high school, which means whatever program they pick in 8th grade, they have to keep their freshman and sophomore year until they're a junior. Which means if they do decide to change their program of study when they are a junior, that means they could potentially have to double up on classes to get their endorsements.
Okay, so Warpath Academy.
Hold on.
Yes.
So, in 8th grade, they gotta make a career decision,
Yes,
basically?
yes, which is
My
why
complaint last year.
I started having like the CTE camp in October. That's why we have like the CTE symposium to start giving students the opportunity to see what's available at the high school. You know, giving them career awareness, all the career exploration things that they're supposed to be doing in middle school. That's the reason why we promote that stuff so hard, is because they
Well, I understand that, but you're talking about an 8th grader, what, 13-year-old? 12, 13-year-old? You want them to make a decision all the way through their sophomore?
That's the state of Texas, sir.
And TEA actually has their own form that they have to sign. So their parents have to come into the counseling office during a business day and sign the form with their student saying that they are changing their endorsement and that they could potentially accept a foundation level graduation plan.
Or graduate late if they change their graduation plan.
Yes, and that is something that is actually not brand new. It's been around for at least a year, but we are fully making sure that we don't get to that point where they have to change their mind. I think it's important that students pick a program of study of something that they might be in line with. And I can give you a really good example. We actually have a senior right now, and I've been doing these meetings in English classes for the past week, talking to students about their programs and their course selections. We have a student who is a senior, straight A student. He wants to be a nurse. He is in the EKG phlebotomy practicum. He passed EKG flying colors, perfectly got certified phlebotomy. So for phlebotomy, that's when you take blood. You have to touch somebody. You have to put the rubber thing around their arm and tap their vein. Completely freaked out.
freaked out about taking blood, about sticking a needle in somebody's arm, but he knew from when he was in middle school that he wanted to be a nurse. And now he needs to change his mind, which it's better that he learns here than 2 years into college and he can't stand the sight of blood.
So,
Sorry.
so, with the Warpath Academy, you'll see guidance in there as far as what, classes we're offering as far as dual credit. What IBCs are coming from, Coastal Bend College. IBCs are industry-based certifications that the state says that, that we can get reimbursed upon. So that's important to us because we don't wanna spend our own money on something that we can't get reimbursed. Level 1 and level 2 certificates for our automotive and welding kids, associate degrees, we're offering 4. And then our work-based learning experiences for our kids. We're about to go under next year, or hopefully. We will start building our cosmetology classroom. That is something we're really looking forward to, so that this group of freshmen has 26
students.
26 students, cosmetologists, future cosmetologists, that we will be starting their construction in. Once again, there's no cost for parents at this point. We take care of everything.
So the programs that we're offering, so we were offering architectural design, but we had 6 students who are actually interested in it. So we will try to see if more students are interested in it later. You know, we'll promote it during the CTE camp. But 6 students is not enough to hold a program of study financially. So we do have automotive, and surprisingly, that's a good program. It's just very hard to keep an instructor here at the high school level versus them going to the college level, working in an actual auto shop and being taught by an actual college professor. You know, they're getting more certifications over there than what we could offer here at the high school campus. Cosmetology, engineering, forensic science.
Real quick on engineering, this may be the wrong place to answer questions, but I'm getting a lot of questions from parents, my son included, who's in the engineering, that these courses don't transfer over to college. But I read in here they do, but the way I read it, they only transfer to A&M Kingsville?
So Coastal Bend College has a partnership with A&M Kingsville. A&M Kingsville, the dean of the College of Engineering, actually helped create the Coastal Bend classes, the whole level 1
Right.
certificate.
But if they don't want to go to A&M Kingsville, what happens? If they want to go be an engineer at
Then they should
A&M Corpus?
Then they can opt to not do the Coastal Bend classes through college.
So what we
Coastal
will
Bend
ask
College.
that question is that there's a general studies program. So those are psychology, sociology, speech, those classes that we can offer, that give those kids an option to get their basics out of the way for the actual
Towards engineering degrees?
Right,
Mhm.
the actual engineering. So I just did one this morning, met with the kid, and we pulled A&M Kingsville's entire engineering program and went through one by one and signed them up for classes. So this year she's taking 2 classes in the spring and 2 classes in the fall that count towards that degree plan, but none of the engineering classes are included. Most of our kids won't be able to handle that type of math until their senior year. You know, so if you take the regular progression, they won't get there in time to actually have the engineering portion, I guess, being able to accomplish that. So for those kids, we'll knock out all the basics that we can.
Okay. I'm gonna beat a dead horse too, so now they've got to decide on the school they're going to too, right?
Right.
'Cause
Yes,
that's a lot, but other than that, then the next question is, do they only transfer for mechanical and civil, not chemical?
So each engineering program is different. So for example, mechanical, you don't have to take chemistry. You could
Right.
take astronomy and environmental science as the 6 life skills or physical science courses that you need. For chemical, you have to take chemistry.
Right, so my question is, does this help somebody that wants to go be a chemical engineer?
Yes. So through A&M Kingsville, we're offering the 42 core, which means these are for public universities in the state of Texas. So if they want to go to Baylor, then we've already told them to look up Baylor, and we will help them look it up to see which, it's a CNN, it's online.
So
and
for
it
Baylor's
shows
a
you.
private university, they don't necessarily transfer.
Yes.
For going to UT or to A&M College Station, we
schools.
personally pick those classes that do transfer.
Okay.
So they'll take Texas government, United States government, English 1301, English 1302, Comms 1315, all those classes that transfer to other universities, we make sure they take those. Chemistry, for instance, has a prerequisite of college algebra at A&M Kingsville, so they have to have had college algebra first or had a high enough ACT score to get credit for it. If they don't have that, then chemistry is just not for them that particular time. They'll start off with biology because they have to have it either way. And biology doesn't have that requirement for college algebra yet. You can take those at the same time. So it all depends on where that kid, not say where they're going to go to school, but more importantly, what type of program they want to enter to.
Right.
We can still knock out a
Some
good chunk
sort
of
of-
24,
Yeah.
30 college hours that go towards their actual degree that will transfer over.
Because it's their basics.
Right.
Yes.
So they're
Okay,
knocking
so
out their
y'all can-
basics.
Okay, so it's safe for me to say, when these people from the community are telling me at baseball games, don't take the engineering because they don't transfer. All these classes transfer in one way or another
Yes.
To a public.
to a certain, degree, but depending on the university,
Right.
it's gonna depend, okay.
We have no kids taking like a 3,000 level engineering course.
No.
You know, those,
Are not.
yeah, those aren't on the table.
I got
Um,
you.
So, Calculus 1 isn't on the table because every university wants you to take calculus with their particular professor, so that one doesn't even transfer.
Okay,
And
cool.
it has to be said too, the UT physics class, if somebody is going for engineering, the UT on-ramps physics class will not satisfy that requirement. Because that is a general university physics, not a major physics, which is what engineers have to take. So even if they were to ace UT on-ramps physics, it would not count towards their actual degree plan for engineering.
Thank you for that.
So, back up a little bit.
And none of it'll go to
Yeah.
like D3 schools. Because I related that with
Okay, so for the forensic science, and that one is actually the last part of the year. You have to go do some field-based stuff. It's pretty cool. They get to go and research dead animals and all kinds of things. The healthcare technician, this is something that, we're really happy with Coastal Bend. They're able to pull off 4 certificates instead of the 2 that Delmar offered. So they'll be, once they graduate, they'll have 4, things to get right back into that workforce.
It'll be EKG, phlebotomy, CNA, and patient care in 1 year. And then if you actually look in the course catalog, anything where it's the grade level is blue, that means they actually have to go to campus for that, because parents are able to see, like, if it's blue on that year, I know that my student's traveling.
Coastal Bend in Beeville?
Yes,
Yes.
or Alice or Kingsville, depending on where
On
that.
the program,
So do we transport?
yes.
You mean they're colored in here, or they were colored on the ones that came home with the
They're colored in
kids?
there.
Oh, okay, because it
So if
was
you
like,
go
I
to
didn't
like
get a
the
colored one.
programs, so like automotive is all blue, because that is
We don't have
strictly
that.
correct, that is at Coastal Bend College.
And then, things like law enforcement, they're actually gonna shoot a firearm. We
Yeah.
can't have that at school.
So that's their senior year where they go to Coastal Bend at Viewville.
Right. And they will be a licensed peace officer after they're done.
Yes.
Just a general question, what
Yes,
happened to the dental program?
The dental, it's still there. We self-certify though.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Yes.
give the test, so it's not through either,
Okay.
of the entities.
Yeah, we have a certified dental hygienist, that's a teacher.
Okay.
So there's a long list of classes for automotive that these kids will take by the time they graduate. And so as you can see, it's pretty extensive. They will graduate. There's all the criminal justice courses that we're offering. There's all the cosmetology courses that they will be taking. That is all done in 1 year, in 3-week courses. So as they go, their senior year, they're taking just like health with us through a remote class, just for us to be able to hold on to them. The rest of the day, from 8 in the morning till 4 o'clock, they are doing nothing but cosmetology the entire time, and they walk out of there with their license.
With their cosmetology operator's license.
They will, you could go over there, get your haircut. we're gonna encourage you to do so.
Yes. Go get your,
Fundraiser,
go get your hair done.
Those are buzz, right?
Okay, and then that was the architectural design, the drafting and the engineering piece, and then you have the welding there at the bottom, that's a pretty neat program that, Coastal Bend Knowledge is doing there. It's called a marrying program,
Yes.
where they use our professors, and we only pay them $25 instead of the full price, and they just put it on their transcript. Way cheaper, still kids get the same result.
They still get the same certifications, they still take the same classes, funding wise is the only difference. And these are the industrial mechanics or process technology, it's the same thing that they call it. These are the courses for that. So this one is through Alice, and how it works is most of these classes are online. And they would actually go to Alice whenever it's time for their junior and senior year. They would go to Alice to go to the shop over there on like field trips to do lab days. That way they can get the experience working with the machinery.
Okay, so these are basics. You might see some repetition between what A&M Kingsville offers and Coastal Bend College offers. It's because their associate's degrees require them. So Arts 1301, Art Appreciation is Arts 1301, or TAMUC, which is Art History. They're both essentially the same class, but if they're starting in Coastal Bend College, they're taking those. So those are kids who are getting their associates at Coastal Bend College. Those are the list of classes they would have to take in order to fulfill their associates.
Okay, so Texas A&M Kingsville courses that we added. So Kingsville is the general core. So all you're gonna see is core classes from A&M Kingsville. So art, biology, chemistry, speech or communications, and then you have history, college algebra, trigonometry, psychology, philosophy, all of those courses, US government, Texas government, everything. So these are the common core classes that go anywhere in Texas to a public university.
So going back to A&M Kingsville's thing, some of those courses are required for a TSI. Some of them are not. So we are putting a huge emphasis on the TSI with our kids to make sure that they're eligible to take these courses at the appropriate time. If not, we have to adjust their schedule to make sure that they're making sure that we are able to offer them in a timely manner. If not, then we have to substitute their course for something else.
And they know which ones require TSI because each course in the catalog actually says if there's a TSI prereq for it. And what type of TSI, if it's just ELA, if it's the writing, or if it's math.
Is everybody familiar with what the TSI is?
I have a question about the TSI. Do you have the enrollment that, or the testers that we need to keep those kids college level prepared with the TSI scores?
Do we have the?
Yeah, the number. I mean, the kids are they actually signing up, picking up the tests?
Yes. We're offering it quite a bit, and I mean, we had a bunch of kids sign up this morning because they realized, like, for example, senior leave, senior arrival, and admin aid, for them to do that kind of thing, we want them to be TSI ready.
Okay.
Yeah. So one of our new rules is that you have none of those classes until you are college and career ready. So if you want to have senior leave, senior arrival, it's contingent upon you passing your TSI. So it's a huge incentive for them to take the TSI.
Okay, so for CTE programs added, we did add industrial mechanics as an associate's through Alice for Coastal Bend College. We added forensic science. Healthcare technician was EKG phlebotomy, but I changed it to healthcare technician because we have all four. Cosmetology, automotive, architectural design is something we used to have, and then we brought it back, so we're gonna see if that actually goes anywhere, because if you were to look at the labor market data right now, architecture it's like 6 times in the top 10 right now for civil drafters. So that's one of the reasons why we want to offer it, just in case students, jump on that bandwagon and want to go be a drafter and make $20 an hour instead of working at Walmart. And then graphic design, which was photography, but it's graphic design. We did remove culinary arts, we removed environmental and natural resources, and we removed the photography program, which is replaced by graphic design.
Okay, so UT on-ramps courses have been removed. This is because we're going through A&M Kingsville and it was kind of redundant. So the, everything that has happened with UT on-ramps will still stay on the kids' transcript, but obviously this is a better option for us right now.
For industry-based certifications, you're probably hearing that there's a new list out there, and there's actually a lot of companies that are upset that their certification's not on there, like OSHA 30 hour. That's not an industry-based certification anymore. I'm sorry?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know.
That's
I know,
unfortunate
right?
for this area.
Yeah, I know, I agree, especially for this area.
Yes.
So we actually updated all of the certifications that are on the website right now, all of our programs of study. So let's say that a student is on the engineering program of study, there's no such thing as the OSHA 30 hour on there anymore. Or if they are in welding, OSHA 30 hour is not required anymore either, which is interesting since they have a whole safety class on that. But all of our programs of study are now embedded with certifications in them that are aligned, because you can't just take a certification, like even if you do like floral design and you get that Texas Floralist certification, if that's not your program of study, it doesn't count. So we're just paying for those students to take that test, we're just paying for those students to actually sit in that class and use all of those flowers, but it doesn't count towards a certification. It doesn't count towards our college and career readiness.
So those are the degrees we've added in associates in applied forensic science. They've also got a pretty, in law enforcement, Coastal Bend College also has a very good working relationship with what's that one over there that's?
DPS?
No, that college that's.
Sam Houston?
Sam Houston, which is the best criminal justice school in the area. So they've got all their stuff transfers over there as well. We've also got the associates in applied technology and automotive. The automotive program, they kind of guarantee them a job as soon as they find them a job after, which is also very helpful to our kids.
We actually had quite a bit of students interested in forensics, like most of them were females, which is actually, I think, great because it's non-traditional. I love it, But it was like 27 students who want to do the associates for forensic science as 8th graders.
And the good thing about us is we're utilizing some of our staff. We have a Mr. Brewer who has a master's in criminal justice, so we're sending him to go teach them how to take fingerprints and all these other cool things, so he can come back and teach the kids. So that is actually taught on campus by him as an associate professor at Coastal Bend College.
The only class they have to take for forensics that's off TM campus is when they do the
Death investigation of a pig in the middle of a
hog that
ranch
they
and
kill and
very CSI stuff.
very CSI.
Very cool.
Okay, certifications added is the engineering, drafting, and design level 1 certificate, the cosmetology operator's license, which is a level 1, the welding level 1 certificate, correctional science level 1, the fundamentals of law enforcement, and forensic science level 1 certificate. So those are all brand new certificates that we're adding this year.
And how many total certificates do we have?
Oh, gosh.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
120.
7. We have 8 because right now we are graduating
I think it
this
was
year.
Much higher than that.
For certificates,
It's not the same as I've
Yeah, I'm having brain freeze there.
for certificates, there's 8. We're actually graduating, let me see, we're graduating 6 level 1 industry welding certificates this year that are gonna walk the stage, and 2 heavy equipment, level 1 certificates that are gonna walk the stage with Del Mar this year. So we have 8. And then next year, just to put it out there, we should have 15 for welding. that are gonna cross the stage with Coastal Bend College, and I think it's gonna be close to 12 for engineering.
Okay, so those are all the certifications we're offering.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 for certifications. And that's also because it was very, trying to keep everything in line.
These certifications were removed from the state, so it's also had a huge impact on CCMR. We'll talk to you guys about that later. But every kind of school district not America, in Texas, used to put their kids through BIM to get the Microsoft Office Words and Excel specialist. That way it could count towards your CCMR. The state found out that loophole and permanently closed it. Everybody's kind of just worried that their CCMR is gonna drop from 80% down to 20. And it's really going to mess with our accountability rating a lot. So we've been doing a lot trying to get our kids to
Strategizing.
yeah, that's a good
lot.
word. To make up that deficit of all that loss. They were able to count 20% of what those kids did. So you take how many kids had passed it, take 20%, that's all you're able to count. So we're gonna lose all those kids in our academic rating, and we're trying to minimize that.
Yes. By passing to you.
Same thing with OSHA 30. That went away, so any kid who had that doesn't count towards us anymore.
Well, you said by passing TSI, right? Is that what you said? So are the kids being offered classes
Yes.
for the TSI?
Their
Okay.
advisory period, and we have a whole new plan for next year on how to get kids to pass TSI.
Yes.
So we're looking forward to that, but for this year.
Option C?
Option C.
Yes.
Yeah. So
It
it's,
passed B a long time ago.
yeah, so it's been, everybody's worried, it's not just us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you talk to the other principals there, everybody's freaking out about it.
Yes.
It's
When you have entire districts or districts that have 8 business teachers and now they only need 2, that is something that they're all trying to think about.
or schools that were A schools who now are looking at being a D because they've lost that Microsoft
Yes.
Word
Well,
option.
historically, we haven't made a living off of CCMR at the high school.
Correct.
And so the impact to us will be much minimal than it would be, let's say, to a Fremont, which made a living off of that. I mean, they were at 98% CCMR, now they won't be.
Yes. So that's one of the things where the state is, you know, gotta love them, gotta keep up with them.
And that's 40% of your accountability.
It's almost
Yeah, it's
half.
a hit.
Yes, and then they have rules about if you don't get a certain grade or a certain letter grade in CCMR, then the district overall can't make higher than something else.
All kinds of fun rules.
All kinds of fun rules.
Don't be that crazy.
But in fairness to the middle school and the elementary, they don't have graduation rate or CCMR to offset push up their accountability. It's STAR.
Yep.
That's it.
So weighted courses, UT on-ramps courses have been removed, obviously, because we removed the class. Advanced Rural Design has been removed because it's no longer recognized by TEA. Spanish 3 and 4 honors have been completely removed from the catalog. If a kid wants Spanish 3 and 4, they go take that A&M Kingsville, 1301 and 1302 Spanish. And all TAMUC and CBC courses have been added to give that extra weight because they are college courses.
And I think it's a total of 124 courses that we added this year.
That's where I got that.
That's where the 120,
That's where
because I
got
had
the-
125.
That's where I
in my
got
head.
the 124, yes, okay.
That's the number of courses we added this year, which is actually, it seems like a lot, but we have students that are legitimately excited about doing automotive or doing forensics or law enforcement because they want to go. So when they graduate with an associate's in law enforcement, they graduate as a peace officer. Even if they're 18, they graduate as a peace officer. And they can't go into the academy until they're 21, but they can still go work for the department. You know, they can still go have a career.
To work for the county jail at 18.
That's right.
Gabe, let me ask you this.
Yes.
You know, I meet with you guys and Dr. White all the time on this stuff. If I'm teaching government or economics at Tolosa Midway High School, and I'm not involved in these meetings, how up to date are they on all of the changes that's going to happen to TM High School next year?
We had a faculty meeting where we went through pretty much the entire.
Yeah.
Everything, as far as things that were going, so they should be pretty up to date. As far as like logistics of how things are going to work, as far as travel, and as far as, you know, facilitation of courses and things of that nature, we.
Are they
we're
aware of the
figuring it out.
acceleration and the TSI focus in the
Yes.
spring?
And that's something we've been doing also in the department head meetings, is talking to them about it, because that way they can share the information. But then, like, for example, when I go into Miss Gray's classroom to talk to her students about, you know, their course requests and everything, she's learning a lot. She's like a sponge. And she's sharing that information to all the English teachers.
Okay, good.
So, which entails, shares it to all the students, so.
So the other things that changed is the local technology credit has been removed. It used to be required by the state, but the state said you should be in, I guess about 4 or 5 years ago, they changed it to where you should be embedding things in your curriculum, like PowerPoints and all the other things that kids do. So they've actually not recommended, so we've removed that local requirement for technology, as it should be taught in every core subject with their teams.
That's where we're at.
We also, so TA also changed the name of some courses, and we added something that used to be was academic decathlon, and we're now calling it UIL academics and decathlon. So that way we can also promote our UIL program. And
If you remember, we finished third in the state in UIL academics, so this is our big push to become state champions as a district. So we are offering, you know, kids who do UIL academics an opportunity to take it as a course. That way they can practice continuously, so hopefully we can bring home that state title.
And they can do it during the school day, so they don't necessarily have to stay after school, especially for kids who have to take the bus.
Yes.
Do you have any questions?
Yes, ma'am.
How does the chemistry and biology lab stuff work at TEMU?
So biology is being taught by Miss Waddle.
Okay.
So she's got a master's degree. She'll be teaching it at our place. We have to submit pictures tomorrow.
Yes.
As far as like our lab area, so on and so forth. Then she's got an interview with them, which we don't anticipate, you know, Miss Waddle won't be a problem. And then the chemistry though, they have to have that requirement of taking college algebra or scoring high enough on their ACT. We don't have the facilities or we shouldn't have the chemicals they use in college on our campus. So those kids would have to be transferred in Kingsville to take it there.
When I was in college, I think it was just 1 day a week, and it was a lot of hours that 1 day a week, which is why I asked the question. With these new certificates and using Coastal Bend College, how does their like connections and stuff within industry, in order for kids to like get a job as soon as they get their certificate? Do they go to career fairs or what? Yeah, how does that look like?
They have actually been very helpful. When I call the dean of the the dean of CTE over at Coastal Bend College, answer every time. The assistant, we have actually been assigned an individual for our district from Coastal Bend College. So she won't work with other districts, she's just gonna work with us and be our liaison for Coastal Bend College. As far as like business and industry partners, they've helped us get letters of support, they've helped us get MOUs, they've had their instructors reach out to their different companies that they work with that hire their students to send us contact information to get things lined up for work-based learning. So very helpful.
Like I said, the automotive program, they guarantee those kids a job. They
Yes.
find them a job.
Okay.
Yeah, that-
You know what I mean? So.
Like at AutoNation, you know, like.
Right, or, you know, you have your welders, you know, you have, Eagle Ford Shales is closer to them than they are to Del Mar. So you have all these industries, partners that are in the Kennedy area that they partner with as well. So they've got their own, I guess, line on some
Yeah.
people.
Very helpful.
How does that, I guess, translate to the student? Because that's not like a class.
Right.
Or are they working with their
Most,
advisors?
even Del Mar
or-
did a very good job of finding our kids jobs, right, I mean,
Yeah.
they call them and say, I need X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
And, Del Mar's big problem, when we were talking to them last time, was that they had kids that didn't finish. They needed them right now, so they offered the kid a job and promised on-the-job training, so they never really finished their associates. I think it's a good thing that we're trying to push it so they get it done after, while they're in high school, before they do that. Del Mar, they'd have to go over and finish, and they never would.
And we actually embed work-based learning, like in their senior year, where they actually have a block. So I think it's during the automotive program. If you go to the page that actually has the 4-year plan on it, you can see that we embedded time for work-based learning during the school day.
Okay.
So,
I have a question. Transport time, whether it be to Kingsville, Beeville, or Alice, you're looking at about an hour each way. How does that affect the student with their other classes? If they're gonna be going, spending the time there, so there's 2 hours of travel time. How does that affect their day at school?
so for automotive, for students who are just starting out, so for example, say that we had been running this for 4 years, we would have freshmen and sophomores going on Monday and Wednesday, just in the morning time, and then juniors and seniors on Tuesdays and Thursdays. On days that they're not at Coastal Bend College, they'd actually be here on campus, and they would be, if they had to take a course through Apex, or if they wanted to participate in band, they could actually still do that. So we're making sure to look at every student's schedule individually when it comes to that type of thing, because we still want them to have a high school experience, but still have the opportunity to get some type of certificate or
There's
degree.
more credit earning opportunities in the hybrid schedule that they're gonna have next year.
And your District of Innovation lets you do that. You put that 90% where you exempted yourselves from that. So it lets our kids attend class, I'd say less, but as long as they're making up their work, they still get credit for the class.
Okay, I guess my question is, throughout those 2 hours of travel time, would they be given a laptop or something that they can
Yes.
work with and
And the
stuff?
school buses have Wi-Fi on them.
Okay, so that's what I guess my question
Oh,
is.
yes.
I mean, are they still gonna be able to do?
And we're starting school a little later at the high school campus so they can get to class and make it back on time. So it helps, so they're gonna land right they should come back right in time for fourth period athletics for our boys. So they don't have to miss out on football or baseball or whatever they wanna play. The first 3 periods that they'd be missing, and if they wanna go in the afternoon, well, then we have that as well.
Last question. So as more kids are now gonna go towards, I guess, before dual credit classes were almost like your AP type kids, now that more kids are gonna go do dual credit classes in terms of getting an associates and stuff, do you see like a decrease in your own like teacher head count? Or do you see getting them more certificates like Miss Waddle and the fingerprint guy?
There is a grow your own program where
Yes.
kids, but they have to have their master's degree. Or, for our industry-based people, they have to have the higher level of, they asked for, like, we had Mr. Souter, who was one of our welding, they asked what his industry-based experience was, where he went to school, so on and so forth. So we had to turn all that in. So yes, growing your own is a big option to get, but at the same time, does it help us reduce overhead?
I think you're
Absolutely.
talking about reduction of staff
Yeah,
based on, you will
Yeah.
see that.
So,
or especially in, I guess, I'm not so
We
concerned
will
about
see
the
that, you said?
CET.
Well, look at English. They're
Yes,
gonna-
I'm more concerned about the core classes.
They're gonna
right?
be able to wipe out English 3 and English 4 their junior year by taking 1301 and 1302. Then their senior year, they got more opportunities to explore other options. So they're, but what I have seen, enrollment, with these type of programs, enrollment generally increases. And so with increased enrollment, the impact of the reduction is minimized.
You're talking about more kids coming to TM?
Yes.
Okay.
You advertise free college for kids.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're going to get a significant enrollment increase.
And we're still gonna have like facilitators, so for like English 1301, 1302, through A&M Kingsville, our teachers can only teach 2 classes per semester. So the rest of it is facilitated. So even if we do, how many kids do
I
we
guess,
have signed up?
so they're not going to Kingsville for that?
Some
Or
are,
the
some are,
teachers
some are
also
not.
going?
Some are.
Some are, some are not. It really depends on if the student can fit it into their schedule and if they want to. So like if they're in theater and choir and band and athletics, the potential for them actually going to Kingsville is very, very light, just because band's in the morning.
But they
athletics in the-
can.
But they can, yes.
It'd be cool to see, I don't know, what a head count would look like based on how many more people are doing
Yeah.
these things. And then also, oh my gosh. There is another.
We have 360 kids signed up to take.
Oh, and if class sizes in our normal non-CET stuff, if those class sizes are getting smaller.
Add that today,
And more
that's what we
one-
spent.
Yeah,
one-on-one
we spent
stuff.
all day doing that.
Well,
So,
okay,
yeah.
sweet.
What you also will see is, right now, if a student is unsuccessful on state assessment in the course in English 1 and English 2 and Algebra 1, they're gone, and they just come back on their own for tutoring for those second and third opportunities. Their schedule doesn't allow that to happen now next year. They will stay in that class with a reduced student-teacher ratio and a much better opportunity to pass if they're in the class every day.
And then, I guess, just a comment, and this may not be relevant, but them getting the paper helps our CCMR score, right?
So the way you get a CCMR point is if you get an industry-based certificate, you take 9 hours of college classes, or you take your TSI, or you get credit in English 1301 or 1302.
Or a math class.
And then the way community college funding is hopefully gonna change through the legislature is they are now more accountable for people who get that paper getting an actual job from that paper.
Yes.
Correct.
So that's
their driving
super
force.
awesome
Yeah.
for everyone involved.
They've never had accountability.
Yeah, and now they're gonna get that.
They're pushing.
Okay, that was just a comment.
Good presentation, thank you. Very thorough.
Good job in figuring all of that out, because with all those certificates and trying to figure out how many of those kids have to take certain classes. Congrats.
Very pleased.
All right, so that was a report only. Moving on to number 9, does the board need to take a recess? Or are y'all okay with moving forward?
I'm good.
Okay. Moving on to number 9, report, board debriefing on board training. And I guess we'll start with the TASB Governance Camp in Galveston. Who would like to start?
I found out that the emphasis on most of the school districts have been geared more toward career. They are really focusing on getting kids more career ready than, just by trying to eliminate the expense of college, of having a kid graduate from college with a $200,000 debt. So some of the sessions that I attended were more career-focused. There was a lot of, they have a lot of good ideas, and they're trying to build on those careers. But I don't think it's a struggle, that they're really pushing to get those kids career-ready. Because we're finding, I heard one of the presentations I went to, that the kids are getting, they're just burned out. Testing. They want hands-on, they want to get out and they want to go to work. So my takeaway was, hey, it's career, they're looking at technical, CTE.
I went to one of the classes and, on the special ed, and it was, a young lady with she was autistic. And, she did a presentation, and I got with her dad, and I got her, his email and stuff, and I would like to see if somebody could, Dr. White or Matt Major, somebody could reach out to them. It was such I guess, it touches us right a little bit closer to home, but, I think if the school districts would listen to some people that have autism from them, within themselves, we could learn a lot more than almost any training, because they're telling us what they like, they don't like. She was very specific. And so that was one of the great ones. But I also agree with Jania that a lot of the schools are pushing the CTE programs. My fear is that at some point, I love the CTE programs. I know a lot of our kids need to be ready for that, and that's probably going to be their path in life, right? But I first would like to push the academics and get college a try, don't lose focus on becoming the doctor and the attorneys and the engineers, and there's a lot of opportunities for kids, and I know it's a little bit more expensive and stuff, but there was a big push for the CTE programs, and I'm afraid that we're gonna lose the push for the college-based.
The academics.
The academic
higher
part of
level
it, the higher level education, I'm afraid is gonna get pushed back because of so many CTE programs. And that's just something that I wanna make sure that we still instill in our kids, hey, you know what, we have this, you can go to the cosmetology classes, you can go to these classes, but you can also become a nurse, a registered nurse, you can become a doctor, you can get your college degrees, and I just don't wanna lose that. And at this conference in Galveston, there was a big push for CTE. I mean, their display of kids was all CTE. I mean, it was all, and which is great, right? But I just don't wanna lose the focus on sending these kids and getting them ready for college to get that higher education levels also and stuff. But all in all, I mean, I was telling Chrissy, I put 12 and a half hours of continuing education in these programs, and for the most part, they were all great classes and stuff, so got a lot of good training out of it and stuff. But I would like to see if we as a district could reach out to this little girl and have her, you were there,
Come to speak, yeah.
and come and have her come and, I mean, what better training for our teachers to understand, from what I understand, we have 700 kids in our 504 program and 300 in our special needs. What better way for our teachers and administrators to know what these kids are thinking than from themselves? Because she was a high-level autistic person, but very detailed about what autistic people want, like and don't like. Yeah, she was very specific. It was very awesome presentation from that little girl. So, that's me.
It was good. It was good.
What'd you get out of it?
Leo?
I'm sorry?
Leo, what
About the
did?
conference?
Yes.
No, I thought it was very good. I've got a lot to learn, I'm first, I'm one of the things, and I didn't think they had as much of it, is making clear what, what my purview is or what our real goals are. I know we've got a lot of special interests when it comes to members of our district and parents and things like that, but I think there's guidelines that we have, and we may need to try to keep ourselves in line. I just want to make sure I'm doing the right thing, But I found they had some very interesting keynote speakers that I thought were very motivational, as well as these little breakout sessions. So it was very worthwhile.
I wish we could afford Adolph Brown.
Yeah, it was
Oh, yeah.
fantastic. It was
Yeah.
fantastic.
He's real good.
Yeah, Dr. Brown.
How about you, Paul?
Okay, well, I was in the same class with the autistic young lady. She was it was remarkable, and much like what Ben was saying, her presentation was geared around special needs kids, especially autism, and then she did speak some about dyslexia, but what they like and don't like, and about some of the tags that they're used, like the spectrum and everything like that. They need to start rethinking all of that stuff, which it was a good idea. And it would be a good idea to have her come and give a presentation that was very remarkable for her. She did the whole thing. I mean, she did an excellent job of it. Also, Dr. Brown, that was another good one. It was talking about your backpack, that we all have a backpack. Always have it back here. Not everybody knows what's in it. But then there were other courses. I said they were focusing a lot on CTE, but since it was a student-focused session there, like it has been for the last several years, is that it deals with how to deal with kids, their needs, and their objectives. And they were talking about all this stuff, but on Saturday I stayed for the 3-hour session, and it had all the stuff in there that the state was going to take away, like they've done with the Microsoft, and they said they don't know what's going to become of it, but there may be some more certifications that will be taken away because of the fact they're seeing districts are using this and getting kids certified and certain things, and they think that they're just having too many of them. We don't know. It's the first year of this biennium on this session here. There's a lot of bills and stuff in there that are talking about that. And it got into some of the stuff that has been touched on here in the presentation and everything. A lot of it. It was rather interesting. But I tell you, for 3 hours of that stuff, and it's all, and what they would say, we can't tell you for sure because the legislature is still in session. And that's the way it is with a lot of that stuff. When they're waiting to hear something so they can develop something out of it and everything. But it was a very good conference and everything. Very interesting.
The one thing that I just, we live in South Texas, we're surrounded by water. And something that's not being offered to anybody or anywhere in this area, because they gotta go all the way to Florida, is marine mechanics. And I would think you'd have 100 kids trying to jump in that course to figure out how to fix boats, and I'm talking about outboard new motors that are it looks like a Ferrari engine, they're that technical. Yeah, but nobody in Texas, there's no marine mechanics.
That's interesting.
In our area, we have water all over the place.
The only ones that had that one class
They have
from
from
Rockport.
Rockport, yeah, that's what I got.
Rockport has a class on marine technologies
Yeah.
and things. And they have a class on, marine mechanics. But I don't know how deep it goes into the kid that came up and was carrying that little 5-horse motor that was probably 50 years old up on the stage. But they have one their course covers everything, all the aquatics and some biology and mechanics and, environmental stuff. So it's a rather interesting course, but be something, might be say something we could look into. I'm sure there are some students here that would have a good interest in that. I'm sure, but that'd probably be one of the things the state wants to pay the students or something. Yeah. But it was interesting talking with those kids, and I mean, had one girl, remember her tying the knots the whole time we up there, and she's, doing the fast bowling, tied up with it, and I said, well, can you do a blood knot with that? She looked at me like, and I said, I know, it's too big of a rope, but anyway, it was real interesting.
Well, I know Denise went to some board training in Austin, Texas and Washington DC. You want to give a brief summary of both those?
So Washington was the Federal Advocacy Conference. It was a 2-day conference. So the first day, they taught you how federal dollars come down to the school district. And then they also taught us on all the different, or I guess, the legislative makeup of Washington at the moment. And then bills that are going to be passed, a whole lot of stuff. They just water hose of everything federal that affects school districts. Then on the second day of the conference, we physically went up to Capitol Hill and we had meetings with our representatives and staffers and senators to talk about each of the things they taught us about. One of those items was fully funding IDEA specifically for your special ed kids. There is a federal mandate going back to 1975 that said the federal government would fund, or the federal government realizes a special education child requires more attention, more resources, therefore the cost for that student is higher in terms of money needed. So the federal government said, hey, we're gonna fund 40% of that money. However, what actually happened was they never actually did it. They signed a bill saying they were gonna do it and they never did it. Therefore, the school districts are left to pick up that missing tab because the federal government should be paying 40% and us 60%. However, they're only paying around 15%. So then we're paying 85%. And so that was one of the main topics we went to all the legislatures about, that this needs to be fully funded. Another big topic was teacher recruitment and retention, and they showed us a lot of data for everything and how teacher retention just plummeted through COVID, and then their plans to keep more people interested in the field and what bills they're looking at on the floor to pass to help with that. We went over all the NAEP scores, which is basically a common yardstick that you can compare all states to. And they discussed the learning loss that we saw through COVID, especially it was like 4th grade math and 8th grade reading or something. But yeah, so we went over all that data. That was actually my favorite one. Then they talked about bridging the digital divide, and that was essentially during COVID, the federal government gave all of this money to get resources and laptops and internet to all the children and all the faculty of the nation. However, that was it was a one-time funding. And so now that COVID's over, this bill's about to run out of money. What happens to all those resources? They're all gonna go dark on December 23rd. I don't know how many we have in TM, but right now there's no way to fund that. The emergency connectivity fund, so we talked to legislatures about that and potentially using the fees that were charged in our cell phone bills to go towards that instead of going towards, I think it's broadband is what it was initially used for. That's a whole other discussion. And then the last thing, which I thought was super cool, was the state of Texas has an agreement with the IRS to back all school bonds. That exceeded its limit back in November, and And what that does is it kind of guarantees us that super low interest rate instead of what's at the market. And so it ran out of money, and so there were schools who had to actually go to the market and get these 5 and 6% interest rates on their bonds because there was no money through this guarantee anymore. And then the State Board of Education, found some money in their fund balance to help cover some of these schools. And it's just a big mess, and so then it was a large push for everyone to sign on to extend this bill at the federal level, because it is a concern. But that was Washington, and it was super fun, and 73 people went out of all the school board members everywhere in Texas. I was the only one from Region 2. Y'all should all go. It was a good time. And then in Austin, it was a more condensed setup in terms of half of the day. It was fire hose of everything going on the Hill and what bills are how the legislative process works at the Texas level, at the state level, and how all that money comes down to the school districts. Also, all the different bills on the table this legislation cycle because we have a huge surplus in our budget for the state of Texas. So they saw over 1,000 different bills than they normally see in a legislative session. And they talked about a whole lot of topics, including parent empowerment, school safety, let's see. Yeah, I'm not gonna go through all that. There's a ton of information, but it was really cool because we had the actual representatives talk to us. We had our state comptroller come talk to us. We had the chief of staff for each of the House and the Senate come talk to us through all of these topics. And so that first half of the day was, again, water hose, and then the second half of the day was meeting with your local representatives to push some of these agenda items and bills for them to pass. The attendance at that event was, oh my gosh, there was hundreds of people there. There was full boards there with their superintendent. It was a really good event. Advocacy, yeah. And a lot of school districts have their own, I guess, legislative committees that push for items they would like to see change in the legislature. And they send letters and they go talk and they go advocate and they go to the Senate hearing committees, and it's pretty amazing.
Awesome.
So we should all definitely go to that one's every 2 years, so we should go next legislative session.
Next biennium.
All right. All right, moving on. Discuss and consider approval of consent agenda information items. Check payment register, tax collection report, budget amendments, quarterly investment report, enrollment report, regular and special call board meeting minutes. Did anybody have any questions on any of those?
I had some questions on the partitions. Have we done anything for that? We have.
He's gotten quotes. I've also personally talked with 2 of the 3 grade levels, and 100% want it done, so it's gonna get done.
Okay, good. And then the long-term, short-term plan for maintenance, deferred maintenance, we're still working that?
We start the strategic plan tomorrow. We have a 4-hour session, and part of that strategic plan will cover facility needs.
Good deal.
Any other questions? Discussion?
Okay, it is the administration's recommendation that the board approve the consent agenda as presented.
I will make that motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented 1 through 6.
A second.
All right, we have a motion by Paul Mastella, and we have a second by Leo. All those in favor? None opposed. Motion carries 7-0. Right. Closed session. The board will convene in closed meeting as authorized by the Texas Open Meetings Act to discuss items allowed by the Texas Government Code, Chapters 551.076.076.082.0821, .083.084. The time is 9:40, and we are in closed session.
Yeah. Let's go, Dennis, go home. She's doing her internship.
Oh, is that what it
That's
is?
why she's here.
10:33, and we have reconvened from closed meeting, closed session. And I think we have some action.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, it is recommended that the Board of Trustees renew a one-year contract for the educator term, dual-term educator probation, dual probation, and non-Chapter 21 contracts for the 2023-2024 school year as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Ms. Della makes the motion. Do we have a second? Have the Pauls made the motion and the second that the Board of Trustees renew a one-year contract for the educator term, dual-term educator probation, dual probation, and non-Chapter 21 contracts for the 2023-2024 school year as presented. All those in favor? No opposed. Motion carries 7-0.
It is recommended that the Board of Trustees renew a one-year administrative contract for the 23-24 school year as presented.
Do we have a motion?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second for the Board of Trustees to renew a one-year administrative contract for the 2023-2024 school year as presented. All those in favor? No opposed. Motion carries 7-0.
Madam President, we have no other business.
All right, well, we all know what that means then.
I think Ben beat me this time.
We have a motion by
And I'll
Ben
second it.
and a second by Paul M. That this meeting be adjourned. Today is Monday, March 20th, 2023 at 10:36 p.m. This meeting is now adjourned. Oh, we need to vote before we do that. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
See, it's getting.
Now at 10:36, we're still adjourning the meeting.